Okay, we have 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, do you want to take roll?
Garner. Miller.
Here.
Daffer.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Kehoe.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
Kirkman.
Here.
Selman. Here. Van Acker Jr. 7 present, 2 absent.
Did I hear Daffer online?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Report on council actions. Rodney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director.
So we had 3 public hearing items go before the City Council on the 18th. The first one was annexation and zoning to IL at basically Cherry Lane west of Madison Road. And this was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission on the 15th of October. Again, this was just an area that was completely surrounded by industrial, and it was one single residence that hadn't annexed in yet. And so you recommended approval, and City Council approved it as proposed. The second one was annexation and zoning to RS4, and this one was for Blake Wolf. And this was right off of, it was Shadow Creek at Lake Lowell, and 1408 Lake Lowell Avenue. And this was brought before Planning and Zoning Commission on the 24th of September. It was recommended for approval with an addition of a development agreement to cap the development at 12 dwelling units on that development. 12? And City Council considered it, and they denied the project. They just felt like it was not compatible with the single-family larger lots next door to it. They were requesting RD zone or RS4 zoning, and the area had RS6 and RS7 zoning. And so the lot sizes and the zoning not matching is what they listed as their reasoning. The last one was a vacation of public utilities, drainage and irrigation easements. And this one was off of Madison Road, south of Birch Lane in the IL zone for Kent Brown. And that one was considered and approved. And that's it.
Thank you. Take a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's any items on there that you guys want to pull off and discuss.
So moved.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. I see a lot of familiar faces, so most of you know how this works, but for those that haven't been here, we'll go through the public hearings one at a time. The applicant will come up and have 7 minutes to explain what they want to do. We'll hear from city staff. Then we'll open it up for public testimony. If you've signed up, we'll go through that list first, and then we'll see if there's anybody that didn't sign up that decided they wanted to speak for or against or undecided on the project. And we'll open it, then we'll bring the applicant back up to answer any questions and give us any final remarks. We'll close the public hearing. We'll deliberate amongst ourselves and make our decision. And when you do come up to the mic, please make sure to give us your name and address. Speak clearly because it's for the record. And there's a timer on there for 3 minutes, and it counts down. And when your 3 minutes is up, you need to be finished. So with that, we'll start with item number 1. Adoption of the Southwest Napa Specific Area Plan, Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment to include the boundaries and land uses of the Southwest Napa Specific Area Plan, and a comprehensive text amendment to include the definition of the Southwest Napa Specific Area Plan of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan for the City of Napa. Brianna.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Brianna Sun, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Department for the City of Nampa. For the record, the requested action item before you is for a recommendation to City Council for the adoption of the Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan, a comprehensive plan map amendment to include the boundaries and land uses of the Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan, and a comprehensive plan text amendment to include the definition of Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan in Chapter 15 of the Nampa 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan is approximately 2,700 acres. It is bound roughly by Karcher Road to the north, to the south, Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge and Lakeville Avenue, to the east, Nampa city limits mostly, and then to the west, Midway Road, Lake Avenue, and Indiana, and it does go slightly west of Indiana. This planning area was brought into the Nampa's area of impact in 2023, which allowed Nampa to plan for the future development of this area. The specific area plan will be used as a tool for the city to guide future development as growth heads this direction and as property owners seek annexation and zoning into the city. The plan focuses primarily on land uses and transportation improvements. It's important to note that living in or owning land in the area of impact or within a specific area plan does not mean that you will be annexed into the city. The property will remain in Canyon County until the property owner requests annexation or is required to annex if connection to city services is needed. We understand that there will be opposition to this plan and growth in general here tonight. It's important to note that the items of concern that we could address, we did address in the plan. It is not the purpose of this plan to promote growth, but rather plan for it when it does occur, and to ensure that development in this area is in harmony with the existing conditions. We must also keep in mind that affordable housing is a top concern. For the citizens of Nampa, according to the most recent city survey, the city also completed a housing needs assessment, and the city of Nampa has a need for approximately 14,500 additional housing units by the year 2040. While this planning area is not the solution to the overall housing affordability and availability problem, as it is a citywide issue, it could help alleviate some of those concerns into the future. This planning area will play a role in ensuring that the needs of current and future Nampa citizens are met. So we began this planning process in late 2023 when we engaged with our consultant, Kittleson and Associates. The existing conditions analysis was completed in early 2024, and the bulk of the plan development began in March of 2024 when we began our public outreach. The public engagement methods we utilized included 9 individual or small group meetings, both in person and online. We held an in-person open house. We conducted an in-person and online questionnaire. We had a project web page that was visited by nearly 400 people. It's important to note that the proposed plans that were shown to the public at that time are the same as what you will see here tonight, except for the additional details that we have added, such as listing the specific densities on the future land use map. So during individual and small group meetings, we met with a total of 12 property owners. Of those owners, 9 of them, collectively making up about 107 acres of the plan area, were interested in developing their land in the near future. So this map here shows in green, it represents the properties interested in development. The plan area also includes 297 acres of land that is actively pursuing an entitlement, has received an entitlement already, or is already under development. These areas are shown in yellow here. Of all the highlighted areas that you see on the map, 89% is looking to be developed. From the individual property owners that we interviewed, there were some concerns brought up, including the concern over potential higher traffic speeds and traffic volumes, an expectation that development will require additional right-of-way from their properties, and the concern over potential conflicts with people walking and biking in the plan area. Most of their concerns were primarily focused on safety. From the general public, we collected comments through our in-person and open house and the questionnaires online. We received a total of 175 responses, most of which were submitted online. So this map represents the location of the questionnaire respondents. Of the 175 respondents, 60 of those provided their home address. Of those 60, only 12 did live in the plan area. Roughly 75% of these individuals that responded did not want growth generally, and as a result, they did not like the proposed land uses. The top concerns noted from the public were traffic congestion and safety, concern over the loss of the rural feel and environment, and the potential for water shortages. The public generally liked the idea of preserving the integrity of the Deer Flat Wildlife Refuge, seeing transportation improvements and more separated spaces for walking and biking in the plan area. And we got a lot of positive feedback from the location of the commercial uses in a central area, which we'll see here shortly. The public also desired to see intersection safety improvements, side paths, specifically separated side paths, and upgrades to existing streets. Again, most of the concerns and desires from the public and property owners were focused on safety when traveling through the area. The final form of public outreach that we completed was taking the draft plan and the public feedback that we received to the Board of County Commissioners. We've been working really closely with Canyon County through this process in an effort to have a more joint vision for the area. At this meeting, there was general agreement on the proposed layout, some concern about the public responses to density. A large emphasis was placed on walking and biking in the plan area. The board also favored the central district location and vision for the area. There was a conversation at this meeting about the conservation and preserving of farmland elsewhere in the city to allow growth in this area and then preserve agricultural land elsewhere where we're not already abutting city limits, as is the case here. The plan recommends roadway network improvements. Specifically, it recommends 3 additional north-south mid-mile collectors, shown here in purple. These roadways would support the grid pattern we're trying to achieve to better facilitate movement through the plan area. If adopted, planning staff would work with engineering and transportation to ensure that these recommendations are included in the city's transportation master plan. One of the most important goals that staff had going into this planning effort was to ensure that the plan area becomes accessible by walking and biking, especially considering the location of Midway Park centrally here and the potential school sites that you can see in blue here. The plan recommends several new trails that would follow the existing canal system. The plan also recommends 10-foot side paths along all major roadways. We've also highlighted potential enhanced crossing areas in front of the school and park sites. The idea is that people who will live in this area eventually will be able to walk and bike safely to school, to the parks, and to that central community area where we will have future commercial services. By creating this grid and loop pattern for walking and biking, we hope to see this area to be less car dependent for the people that will ultimately live here. These, so we're going to get into the land use side of things. These are the current future land use designations. These designations were reviewed and approved by Nampa City Council in February of 2023 and approved by the Board of County Commissioners as well in September of 2023. If City Council chooses to not adopt this plan and amend the comprehensive plan, then these land uses will remain and be used. So we already have land uses over this area. This is what's currently in place. These are the proposed future land use map designations. The proposed land uses were based upon individual property owner interviews. We are proposing less density near the Deer Flat Wildlife Refuge, with density increasing as you get closer to the city, the existing city limits, and as you get closer to that central area that you see here in purple. And we'll discuss the specific land uses a little more in detail in the next slides here. So as you can see here, comparing the two, on the left here is what is existing, our existing future land use map designations, and on the right is what we're proposing. There are a few changes overall. The biggest change is that we're proposing that the residential mixed use, which is the darker purple, which is that large area, be changed to medium density residential. The densities allowed in residential mixed use and residential mixed use and medium density are the same. However, the commercial land uses we felt would be better situated at a central location rather than dispersed throughout the plan area, which is what the residential mixed use would have done. So a community hub, if you will, has been identified in the plan as the Midway Lone Star District. It's being proposed at the intersection of Midway Road and Lone Star Road. The district is proposed to be that community mixed use. This designation allows for commercial uses and higher density residential. We have specified that the densities decrease the closer you get to the wildlife refuge. The idea is that, we're pulling that density towards city, existing city services and existing city limits. The medium density residential was pulled a quarter-mile west, and that was to ensure that on the previous slide there was a mid-mile collector that we're proposing, and that's to ensure that the land uses will be compatible across that future roadway. And then, let's see here. We also pulled the low-density residential a quarter-mile south to create a more seamless transition from that medium density to that very low-density residential. So it'll go, the medium density, low density, very low density. So as I just talked about, these are the comprehensive map amendments just listed out here. And then we did develop a conceptual land use layout proposing a grid system and possible future land uses, showing potential bulk and massing for parcels with the plan when we developed this. The idea is to help visualize what the area is going to look like in the future. So you can see that here. And again, these are just conceptual. So this is showing the Midway Road, Lone Star Road intersection that's proposed to be that community mixed use district to provide those community-wide needs and services. The idea is that the commercial uses should be placed closer to the roadway frontage and it will transition to residential uses as you move away. And again, the visuals are just conceptual. They don't represent any actual development plans. And then again, this is the Midway Lone Star District from the pedestrian viewpoint. So the idea is that it will be very pedestrian focused. You'll have 15-foot sidewalks, landscaping, pedestrian scaled lighting, and services at that street level. So these are the specific land use designations. So the plan document outlines the densities and the types of housing permitted in each of the designations. The plan also utilized pictures like this to show what each designation might look like as it develops out. So this is for the very low density residential. It will be 1 acre or greater lots, and they will only be single-family detached. And you can also have, cluster developments, so the 2.5 dwelling units per acre, if they're clustered with contiguous open space. And then for the low density residential land use setting, will allow for lots ranging anywhere from 12,000 square feet to 1 acre in size. There'll be single family residential and single family detached only, 1 to 2 stories, a lot of open space still there. And then for medium density, we'll have lot sizes ranging from 8,700 square feet to 17,000 square feet for those areas that are the 2 to 5 dwelling units per acre. And again, they'll be only single-family detached homes. The lot sizes would be smaller in the areas identified on the plan as the 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. That's going to be that 5,500 to 8,700 square foot lots, and limited to single-family detached with the possibility of some duplex and townhouse development. And there'll be no 3+ multiplex type buildings allowed in the medium density. So for the community mixed use designation, which is found along Karcher Road and in this Midway Lone Star District area of the plan, this designation will be commercial services with limited high density residential. The density in this area will be 8 to 12 dwelling units per acre. However, we are capping the amount it can cover. So in this area, no more than 50% of the area can be made up of high-density residential. The residential portion of the developments should really be integrated either vertically or through design standards, strong design standards that we would like to see held up through a development agreement when the development actually comes through the entitlement process. And again, this area is going to have retail and other services at the street level with those 15-foot sidewalks and a unique streetscape design and architectural standards that will be developed. So throughout our public engagement process, we received a lot of comments regarding the need to protect the Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge. So the plan calls for a 60 to 80-foot buffer for developments adjacent to the refuge. This buffer should incorporate landscaping and walking paths. The plan also addresses structure height and design, such as materials to be used. Buildings in that district area, that central area, will be subject to design review. The plan calls for a multitude of trails and pathways, and we are suggesting that a wayfinding plan be implemented in this area. It'll be really important for people to know where they're going when you have schools and parks and the lake and services nearby. So we're also calling for different entryways and landmarks, and again, that wayfinding to be ultimately implemented in this area. So other design considerations that are mentioned in the plan include road and street edges, lighting and signs. We heard during public outreach the importance of keeping that natural feel for the area. With that being said, the plan calls for enhanced landscaping and streetscape design standards with a planting program that's going to be compatible with that natural area. Lighting should also be shielded and directed downward. We heard concerns about lighting pollution, so the intent there is to control that. And signs in the area will also be limited to a monument style only, so no tall signage, so no view will be obstructed. So if this plan were to be approved by City Council, in order to implement it, Nampa's zoning ordinance will need to be amended to codify the recommendations made in the plan. So in Title 10, Chapter 31, a new section will be added for Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan that will further define these codes and standards that are outlined in the plan document. The plan will also refine the current 2040 comprehensive plan and future land use map, and it will ultimately provide that guidance that we need for this plan area as growth heads this direction. Again, this is simply a planning tool as development heads this way, and as proposals come in. And as these specific proposals come in, they will go through their own entitlement process, their own public hearing process before you again when they request annexation. And it ultimately will be up to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to ensure that the plan is implemented accordingly. So in addition to the map amendments that we just went over, we also have a text amendment that will include the new definition of the Southwest Nampa Specific Area Plan. So that definition is here on the slide and in your packet. So for correspondence, we did receive a few items of correspondence, including a comment from the Nampa Fire Protection District. Their comment acknowledged that fire stations 4 and 6 currently serve this area, and that no new stations are planned in their current 10-year capital improvement plan. The plan does fall outside of that 1.5 mile radius of the 2 existing fire stations to meet the desired response time that they note here in their comment. However, Nampa's 2040 comprehensive plan does identify a need for a fire station in this area, and the Nampa Fire Protection District has identified Smith and Midway as a potential location for a new fire station in the future. We're really not anticipating this area to develop out significantly for another 5 to 10 years, if not longer. So planning staff will work with the fire district to recommend a new station be included in their next 10-year capital improvement plan. So Canyon County Development Services did provide a comment in response to the specific area plan. The comment was a late comment. We did receive it just today, but I believe you guys have it up there in front of you. So, and I've also included a copy of it on the slide here for your reference. So in summary, Canyon County Development Services Department did support the adoption of this plan. More specifically, the county finds that this area can be annexed into the city of Nampa with adequate services and facilities in the near future. The comment also noted that county staff and commissioners have been included in the review of the plan through public outreach and stakeholder engagement and presentations and workshops, and staff has worked very closely with their staff throughout this process. The plan also complies with the conditions that the Board of County Commissioners placed on the approval of our area of impact expansion in September of 2023. We received one public comment prior to the deadline of Wednesday, November 6th at 12 p.m. Additional late comments were received all the way up until, I believe, yesterday, all of which were emailed to you or included in front of you. The comments generally noted concerns regarding just general growth in the area, the density proposed at Midway and Lone Star, traffic, loss of agricultural land, lack of preservation and compatibility for the refuge, infrastructure and service costs, the loss of the rural character, and potential water usage and shortage. We also received some feedback from a local real estate broker and developer. A concern was brought forward to staff regarding the financial feasibility of only allowing for buildings that include retail and office on that ground level, the first floor, with residential above that. It was also noted that these types of spaces tend to be more difficult to lease. So based upon this feedback, staff is suggesting that we modify the community mixed-use land use description found in the plan document currently. We would remove that multiplex buildings cannot stand alone and instead require that they be integrated through design elements and connectivity. And I said this previously, that the city should then require that they enter into a development agreement so that we can govern the how it develops and to ensure that integration. A development could still propose that retail on the first floor. This is just saying that they don't have to. so that it will allow for other development types in that district area.
Yeah, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair? That was a recommendation you got. Are you following that recommendation?
It is proposed. You can see the proposal here where we've struck out the no apartment or only multiplex buildings allowed, like the standalone, and we've added the blue, basically saying that they can do that as long as they're integrated, and that we would, as staff, when it comes forward, recommend that they enter into a development agreement to make sure that it's developed cohesively.
So this is, what's on the right is what you've done in response to that recommendation, not
Correct.
their recommended language.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
So the applicable regulations for this requested action item include Idaho Code Title 67, Chapter 65, Section 8, related to conducting a comprehensive planning process and providing a plan for all land within the jurisdiction of Nampa. The proposed findings can be found on the slide here and in your packet. Staff concludes that the proposed changes to the future land use map and Chapter 15 of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan provide current and accurate information that can be utilized for future planning in Southwest Nampa. These changes are necessary as the community continues to grow in this direction. No conditions were given by agencies or departments or suggested by staff. The commission obviously can add conditions as you deem appropriate. These are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, Vice Chair, I have a couple of questions. Has there been discussion with the city of Caldwell and their impact area in that area, or even where their city limits are, and what was their responses or thoughts?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes, we did meet with the city of Caldwell and showed them our proposed plan and did ensure that where we were abutting their area of impact, there was compatibility. So I believe we can go back here. Let's look at the land use map. So this area here along Lodestar Road, the city of Caldwell is calling for what they call estate-style lots. So that's going to be that large lot, so that one dwelling unit per acre.
So is that area in yellow, is that Caldwell?
Correct. That is the city of Caldwell's area of impact. And the area of impact was previously negotiated with the city of Caldwell and Canyon County, so there's no concerns about where those boundaries are.
Okay, so this plan, this proposal, and Caldwell's proposed, whatever they're going to put in this area, city of impact, they jive together, they're compatible.
Yes, that's correct.
One other question here, and maybe Daniel, might be for you, but could you talk to us a little bit about the water supply, both domestic and irrigation, and what that might look like long-term?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, the city undertakes to do water rights master planning often. I mean, we update that on a regular basis. We have what's called a RAFN, or a Reasonable Anticipated Future Needs analysis, that looks at what our impact area, what we will need for water rights, and has a plan for how and when we acquire new water rights. In addition, we are also engaged with the Idaho Department of Water Resources in their efforts to monitor and make sure that the aquifer is adequate, or what is needed to be done to maintain that aquifer now and going into the future. And so with all of those efforts, we don't necessarily have a concern with water rights going into the future. They're planning things that are done to mitigate things on the more aquifer-wide level, that is Idaho Department of Water Resources takes the lead on a lot of those, but we are actively engaged with them on that. On the surface water side of things, the majority of this area is able to be served by, has surface water rights or have some existing groundwater rights that they are farming with now. Those irrigation rights would then be transferred to the city's municipal system as it develops, which is how all of the irrigation systems in the city really have been developed over the years. And so I don't have a concern over long-term use of that. We are actively looking at efficiency measures and things we can do with the irrigation system, potentially putting in some irrigation ponds that will allow for more efficient use of the water. That will help going forward as well. And those are, we have active projects working on that currently.
Is there any idea from city staff if and when this were to be completely built out, any idea how many additional residents that might add to the city? Given what the density and all that proposals might be? 20,000?
Ms. Chair, Commissioners.
10,000?
We haven't done that analysis yet. We definitely can. We're working on that for the entirety of the impact area currently. So this will be included in that. And we do anticipate including that in our annual report for next year.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I might just take a minute. I understand the questioning to get it out in the open about the utilities. That's good standard practice to just make sure that we're discussing those utilities and the need for those utilities. But I want to just remind us about the purpose of today. An impact area expansion was done this past year, and a part of the criteria by state code is that we analyze the ability to service this area with utilities and infrastructure. So that was thoroughly vetted by the commission, by the city council, and then again by the Planning and Zoning Commission at the county and the city council, or excuse me, the Board of County Commissioners. That was a hotly debated and discussed topic, and engineering provided documentation of all of those plans that we have in place to show that we can provide utilities to this area. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, and we wouldn't be having this conversation unless all that was done beforehand, and I appreciate
Correct,
that. The reason I bring some of these questions up is because these are some of the concerns and questions asked by the public, and yeah, okay, very good. And when you talk about safety, I understand that's probably focused on the roads and traffic. What about police and law enforcement?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the public comments we got during our outreach definitely focused more on safety of the roadway and people walking in this area and biking in this area. I would think, because I think people are visualizing still a 2-lane road when ultimately it will be, more developed out by the time people are really out here utilizing this area. We did not receive a comment back from the police department.
Noticed.
I can't speak to that, why they did not provide a comment, but we did provide.
It's probably tough to anticipate when there's nothing there what the need will be. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So, okay, I just wanted to ask if that was,
But we did receive the comment from the fire district.
Sure.
So.
absolutely. All right, that's all I had, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Oh,
You. Thank you very much anyway. You do a great job always. Brianna, we received some letters tonight and some letters in our packet. And reading through these, some of them are very thoughtful and very concerned citizens. And I'm wondering, do we respond to these letters, individuals, or do we just have them hopefully come to the meeting and hear the answers to their questions, or we ever respond? I mean, some of these are nice questions, and
Okay, yeah, you can go, Rodney.
Mr. Chair, I'll answer that one. This is Rodney Ashby. So by state law, we are required to hold a public hearing, and this is a part of that required public hearing process, right? So we notify people, and it's their way to get questions raised and addressed in this public hearing. It's actually not the best approach to ask tons of questions of staff and expect an answer back to every single email, because unless you call us and you have specific questions, but the intention is to bring it before this body, to have it openly discussed. And we review each of those comments, and we try to address those comments in the staff reports that we provide you. And then we also do it in this hearing. We try to address a lot of the concerns in this hearing. But that's not the intent for staff to respond to every single question that comes by way of comments for a public hearing. Again, that's just for your information. This is your decision.
we don't read these out loud, and, you know, maybe I was the only one that read these questions, and everybody else was too busy to read them all, or maybe I didn't read them all. So the public doesn't really know whether they've been addressed or not, unless they come to this meeting and they don't hear or do hear it.
Correct. By state law, again, we are required to have a public hearing, but we're not required to receive comments in written form. We're required to have the public
I'm just
hearing.
curious of whether we went above and beyond the law, but apparently we don't.
But then,
We do, because we receive each of those comments and we try to address them in the staff report.
and the minutes and everything are posted online afterwards, so they can always go to see if their specific question was addressed.
Well, 99% of the time, they're not.
But too, if the staff was to address each one of them, some people may take the response one way, where other people may take the response the other way, and then it's not being held in a public forum like this, and that's what this is for, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And also in response to this, there have been several of the staff reports or the presentations of staff where they'll go and they'll have a slide that says, we've received this kind of comment, and they'll summarize some of the concerns that the public have had, and then they'll address those in their presentations. So they do often summarize and cover some of those topics that are raised by the public.
Any other questions for staff?
I also would just say one last thing is that we do try to address the significant concerns. If it's just a question about why are we doing this, that's typically a public hearing comment, right? And that's something we can talk about here. But if it's a specific, hey, I really need to know, in order to give my input on this project, I need to know when an intersection is going to be improved. Then we do that research and include that in the staff report, and a lot of times we'll respond to those comments beforehand.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Well, we'll open it up for public hearing testimony. Remember to give your name and address when you come up, and you have 3 minutes. And we'll start with those that signed up. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody on the list?
Mr. Vice Chair, we have 4 people signed up. The first will be Katie Trzniewski. I'm sorry.
Don't ask me to spell it, it'll take a minute. Actually, I'm here, good evening. I'm actually here.
Name and address, please.
I'm actually here representing a friend and a neighbor who's unable to attend.
Okay, we get your name and address, though, and then you can give the
Sure.
neighbors.
Katie Trzniewski, 14134 South Florida Avenue,
Okay.
Nampa,
Okay.
83651.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read her responses to this meeting as if I were she.
Okay.
My name is Jody Arnold. I live at 13448 Lakeside Village Drive. Our property is located in the county. About 2 years ago, we received a notice in the mail regarding the City of Nampa's impact zone and a community input survey. I tried to do the survey, even called the Planning and Zoning Committee, and was told my property was not located in that area and I could not participate. Ever since then, I've been watching this issue at the county level and have attended the meetings. The first meeting was about a year ago. At that meeting, I could not give public input. I learned that the area of impact had changed. I was not given the opportunity to give any feedback on the change of boundaries and area of influence the city now has. I called the city to get the definition of the density for the agricultural land, asked about how the zoning would complement the Deer Flat refuge that borders the new impact area. I attended the open house at Lone Star Middle School and left written comments about the density, the growth impacting the wildlife, and its shrinking habitat, and my feeling that the plan is just too city for this agricultural area. We have had an increase in traffic since we moved in. There were so many accidents at the intersection of Lake and Roosevelt that a four-way stop was provided. Proper infrastructure needs to be put in first. The area around us is zoned agricultural with maximum densities of 1 dwelling per 5 acres. Many parcels in this area are farmed. In the Nampa plan, the density is noted at 1 to 2.5 dwellings per acre, very dense in comparison. I would like to see a buffer zone of lower density around the lake of 1 dwelling per 2 acre. This would help the wildlife and better match the county's density or rural density for 2 acres. I would also like to see a maximum density in the Southwest Nampa specific area plan of 1 dwelling per acre to help maintain the agricultural open feel and the county lifestyle of that area. All new projects will be measured by the city plan and not the county plan. Therefore, for all the reasons stated, I ask that the city redefine the zoning density for the Southwest Nampa specific area plan for the area north of Lake Lowell as a special subsection designation with a lower density as
Mr.
noted.
Chair,
You're
time.
about done? Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Now I get to tell you mine.
Chair and Commission, we had previously, technically under the rules, a person needs to be present to give comment, okay? This person that she just gave comment for was not present, okay? And technically, we wouldn't allow that. In this case, we did allow it, and now she is allowed this time to give her own comment because she is present. So the testimony you just heard was from somebody who's not here, and now she's going to give her own.
She gets 3 minutes, okay.
So she gets her 3 minutes now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waiting for the countdown. Okay,
Can you restate your address for me, please?
sure. Well, do you want my name too?
Sure.
Katie Tresniewski. My address is 14134 South Florida Avenue in Nampa. My home is just north of Lone Star Road and west of Lake Avenue, in which the Southwest Nampa specific area plan has been planned for growth and development. Although I have a Nampa address, in reality, I am part of the Caldwell District. Nevertheless, the development in this area will most assuredly impact me, as well as the Canyon County's future plans for that area on the north side of Lone Star and the west side of Lake. My current concerns are threefold: infrastructure, density, and water. Traffic is going to be a huge concern going forward. What changes will be made to help handle that traffic that will inevitably become part of the daily life? It would seem to me a wise idea to make sure that any changes needed in infrastructure in the surrounding areas should be addressed before a plan is put in place. Density. That is currently listed in the Southwest Nampa specific area plan will help create the infrastructure issues of which I am speaking. More density of housing, more traffic, more issues. Water is my third concern. Water is liquid gold, and depending on the year, the climate, and Mother Nature, it is a commodity for which it will be hard to plan on. We already are facing this issue within the current structure of this area. I am pretty sure none of the citizens that live or will live in the area will want to face some of the economic issues and property concerns that citizens in California face these days when it comes to water availability. Finally, I will note that urban sprawl of both Nampa and Caldwell soon, one will not be able to distinguish between one or the other. Although the state's enactment of the Agricultural Protection Act is a good faith effort to find a solution for protecting land use, and unfortunately prescribes a caveat that farmers commit to a 20-year contract to keep the APA protection in place. That's a tough decision for landowners. So it seems to me it would be an appropriate decision to look at the density of the housing in the plan in order to at least keep the area consistent with the surrounding lake area and the adjacent protected wildlife sanctuary. Thank you.
Next, we have Doris Phillips.
Hi, my name is Doris Phillips. I reside at 220 South Ivy Street in Nampa. And I am here because of concerns that I have regarding some of the density of the housing that is proposed that I believe is too dense and necessarily so. And the impact that it has on traffic. I know that traffic is looked at, but from what I can see, that sometimes are maybe not thinking about the fact that that traffic that's out there has to come down this way, and it's going to add to the traffic that's already on the current roads, and then difficulties with accessing freeway and all that. So I'd like to see that addressed and to know more specifically on what they're going to do with the roads to manage the traffic. That certainly is a safety issue, and it certainly is an issue when it comes to police and their ability to respond to the potential for increased number of accidents with increased denseness of housing and more housing developments that are put onto the roads further and further out. I'm concerned about the water issue because there is only so much water, and okay, it's fine now, and we think it will be fine, but as this progresses, and as I mentioned, there will be additional development planned in the future. We need to consider that, and by decreasing the density of some of the developments, that should help alleviate the risk that there is going to be water shortages out there. They're going to dry up the water table. And okay, I think that's my main issues. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Cheryl Higley.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm Cheryl Higley at 12441 South Abbott Downing Way. And Rodney, while you pull that up, I'm going to pass out a handout because it's very distracting for me on the screen.
Give it to the clerk, would you? And then he'll have to have one over there so he can put it up on the screen.
Sure. Can't. There it is. Okay, does everybody have their map? I think he's trying to get it up on the... No? Okay. Thank you for trying. Okay. I had high hopes for this plan, but unfortunately...
Hold on one second, please.
Lost a minute.
Mr. Chair, if the information you've received is not,
That's what I was.
I'm a little
wondering.
concerned about the procedure. Our
That's
attorney,
what I was going to ask, because we can't get it up on the screen.
if we can get it up on the screen, we're supposed to make everything available to the public. How do we want to proceed?
That's correct, Chair, Commissioners. Because there's not the capability to share that with the public who may be watching online, this would be considered a late comment. It shouldn't be included into the record because it's a late comment. The exception is, okay, she can hand this out, but it's not part of the packet that the commissioners received, and so they don't have to actually look at it and take that into consideration. They can take her comments into consideration, but these packages themselves you don't have to look at these and take these as part of the packet.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering, so thank you.
So, and we'll work that out in the future as well.
Okay. You started your time over, so you can...
Okay, thank you very much. I had high hopes for this plan, but unfortunately I've been very disappointed. This plan curiously omits the sections of the area of city impact expansion which abut the refuge, as shown on the map handout number 1 that I provided for you. Doug Critchfield has stated that he felt these areas were ag and rural residential and would remain so. However, we know that's not the case with recent applications for Deer Flat Ranch and Lakeview subdivision. The circled areas need to be included in this plan so that these vulnerable areas are protected. Now, please take out map handout number 2, and I will explain 6 geographic reasons why this area needs to remain very low density. Do you guys all have your maps, I hope? Map number 2. Number 1, just before reaching this area, Highway 84 takes a sharp turn to the north. The result, no direct or easy freeway access. Number 2, this area is lake-locked on 2 sides, to the south and to the west. The result, traffic flow is restricted and will predominantly go to the north and east to Highway 84, to where most jobs, goods, and services are located. Number 3, the traffic will funnel directly into the most problematic interchange in the Treasure Valley at Karcher, Caldwell Boulevard, and Highway 84. The result, an increase to the current tangled knot of congestion, which is like the Gordian knot that cannot be untied. No matter how much the roads are widened, the traffic flow will not improve without a major overhaul of the design with some sort of alternate like a bypass. Number 4, the many new developments proposed or already approved on or near Karcher, such as the Charles at Karcher with 1,258 dwelling units, and Verbena Ranch with 1,045 dwelling units, to name a few. The result, a drastic increase to the traffic on Karcher, which will also flow into the Gordian Knot, leading to even more gridlock. Number 5, residents in the specific area plan will seek alternate routes and head east all the way through Nampa to avoid the Gordian Knot to get to the freeway. The result, increased traffic congestion on streets throughout the city. Number 6, logically, medium and high density should be concentrated in mid to east Nampa. The result, direct access to Highway 84 and 16 and to other alternate routes like 2026, which can handle higher volumes of traffic. The truth is that if there was ever an area in Nampa that needs to be kept very low density, this is it. And I mean true very low density with an overlay to the future land use map so that there would be no stretch exceptions or increase of the density due to a master plan community application. Please don't ruin this beautiful place by filling it up with subdivisions with a commercial and high-density hub to create an artificial sense of place.
Sure. That's your time.
Okay, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And was there one more?
Next, we have Belinda McBurney.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Belinda McBurney, 11914 Iowa Avenue, Nampa. And my major concern has always been the refuge. The wildlife, I was privy to have lots of it at one time, and it's moved over. And now we're talking about a 60 to 80-foot buffer. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, this was built in 1909 as a wildlife sanctuary refuge, and it is a major Pacific flyway for the birds that migrate through here, and they come by the millions. 240 species of birds, 30 different wildlife species reside there. I don't understand. In 1909, there was nothing there. Lake Lowell was put in, brilliantly designed, irrigation. There was nothing there. The farmland, 240 acres, actually helps feed the harvesting, helps feed the wildlife. So why are we going to move all of this out to what I consider a treasure in the Treasure Valley? This is a treasure that we must protect. I'm not going to be here much longer, but there's young people here, you have families, you have children. We owe it to the generations coming behind us. We owe it to the wildlife to make some very, very tough decisions. But you know what? We need to leave this area alone. This is a wildlife refuge. I'd like to know, I've yet to hear, has there been an environmental or wildlife impact study done for all of this? I have not seen one. I'd like to know. And then when you talk about farmland, do you know that a 2017 Boise State University study found, that was in 2017, that at the current rate of growth continues, the Treasure Valley will lose about half of its remaining farmland by 2100. We are losing farms and farmland we're never going to get back. The irrigation waters do recharge the aquifer. So we cannot cover and continue to cover this very, very treasured area with the wildlife refuge. It brings in millions of dollars to the cities, surrounding cities. It also employs. And I just want to remind you, I did read this the last time, 44% of the birds that are killed are due to impact to residential homes. You have seas of residential homes. Where are they going to migrate? Are they going to go in and out of the acreage? And 60 to 80 feet of buffer, that is not okay. And I just wanted to say thank you. And I'm a voice for the wildlife and the refuge, and they thank you. Please, please, I implore you, leave the refuge alone. Do not encroach on the refuge. It's all we have left that will be left in the Treasure Valley once we've lost all the farmland. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Elizabeth Allen.
Elizabeth Allen, 1330 Williams Lane, Nampa, Idaho 83686. And before you this evening, I'm actually testifying on I'm an applicant on another case, but I am a citizen within the area of city impact for Nampa, and I'm a professional planner in the valley. And I want to speak in support of the area plan. I previously worked at Canyon County, where I worked with Nampa staff on other plans in the area, and we discussed this area, and they put a lot of thought and hard work into planning this area. And when you look at the map, you're bounded to the north by the city of Caldwell and the Caldwell's area of city impact. So when you think 20 years out, that area is going to develop, and then you're bounded to the east and the south by the lake and existing city limits. So when you think about agriculture in that area, it's already fragmented, which it's hard to get farm equipment around the city, as everyone's aware when you're driving down the street and there's farm equipment trying to move. So it's not easy for farmers to keep farming in areas that are already fragmented. So essentially it's an island surrounded by city limits. And as far as the housing goes, this is a logical area to provide higher density housing, and it'll actually reduce or alleviate some of the pressure to develop out in the county. But by providing that higher density to provide the housing for Nampa residents and people that come into the area. And I think that's all I wanted to touch on. Thank you.
Anybody else signed up?
There are no further signups.
Okay, is there anybody that didn't sign up that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this? Come up and name and address, please.
My name's Dean Cassie, and I live at 9975 Tercel Lane in Nampa. And I'm just wondering about the commercial area. I'm concerned about, is there provisions for gas stations there? Because I don't want leakage into the water. I'm concerned about that. I know all gas stations leak. Even the most up-to-date code ones leak. Then I'm also worried about the what do you call it? The sidewalks, the foliage on the sidewalks. What do they call that word? I'm having a stroke now because I'm kind of scared. Landscaping. I'm scared of the landscaping. Is there a provision? Is there some kind of like endowment or trust fund to keep those green, so after they get put in, they don't just get abandoned? How do those keep maintained like over a 20-year period? I'm just concerned about that. And also my other concern is, and I didn't think about this till her presentation, but when she said they took the word from one realtor and that he didn't like the mixed use where there's retail and dwellings above it, one guy is able to influence this whole plan. I like new urbanism. I think it's kind of cool that there's mixed use. So I don't know what made that guy an expert, but I contest what he said. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Gersten. I reside at 11929 West Calais Drive, Nampa 83686. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thank you very much for your time and your service. Thank you for the City Council or the City Clerk to put the report together. I've heard a lot of great things for and against. I want to comment on traffic. I think the plan is well thought out with 3 new arterial roads put in. I also think that when we look at the way the roads will be designed, it is designs of the future. They're roads, not two-way highways with tractors going up and down, which is what we're used to currently in that area. I also am one of 2 people that live within a half a mile of that area that have spoken tonight that are going to be mostly affected by any changes in this area. We need commercial in this southwest area. I love the fact the Lone Star Midway District, it's centralized. It's not going to be sporadic throughout the area, but trust me, I don't like driving all the way to 12th. I don't like driving all the way up to Karcher. I need an area that's closer. That will actually mitigate the traffic going up to those areas where the commercial is. I remember one of my first meetings here 2 years ago, someone was talking about a Trader Joe's going into a market. Well, they need 100,000 residents in a certain area before they want to do it. I keep driving to Meridian to get certain services that I would like. I think this is a well-thought-out plan. The development is needed. Growth will happen. We're a very desirable community. People come here from all over because of, yes, the lake is beautiful, the nature is amazing, but the growth's going to happen. Someone spoke about being surrounded. The farmland is surrounded already by residents or the city of Caldwell. The growth is going to happen, so why not have a strategic, reasonable plan? Maybe the densities could be considered. I do like how the density issues are addressed, further away from the town, center of the town, closer to the lake, closer to the refuge, is larger density. There's less density planned. The other thing is, 89% of these property owners want to develop. Give them a right to sell their land and properly do what they want to do. They don't want a farm. No one in this room wants to go and till those fields right now. So give them an opportunity to do it. Every single plan that goes into this space is going to have to be in front of the commission anyway. We're just setting a plan to be smart. Thank you very much for your time and your service.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for, yes, they're undecided? Both of you? Okay, I'll start with you and then you can go next.
Thank you. My name's Andrew Cassio. I live at 9975 Tearsell Drive, or Tearsell Lane, Nampa, Idaho 83686. I originally came here to speak on a different resolution on the agenda, but after hearing some of the other people speak and after seeing the commission kind of discuss it a little, I thought it was really important to come up here and talk about it, because what I've noticed is that there's very few people who are living in truly like rural housing who are coming up to speak. When I hear the addresses, it's suburban housing. And it strikes me as a little bit selfish when people who live in suburban housing are saying that other people cannot build houses and other people don't have an entitlement to be able to do the same thing they did, which is turn this area into an urban, developed place. And as far as water usage goes, as far as protecting the wildlife refuge goes, firstly, residential land use uses, strictly speaking, less water than growing things like corn. The bigger issue is the water table itself, but if you have properly dense enough development, then you're getting water through water mains. You're not drilling that through wells. And finally, the Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge is publicly owned land. That's owned by the federal government. It's protected from any sort of development, including agricultural. And that's not what this proposal is about. It's about developing and managing the development of land near it. And I think this is a terrific plan. If anything, it could maybe use a little more density. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Allison. I live at 11168 West Moreau River Street in Nampa. And one of the things that hasn't been addressed is dam safety. It appears that almost all this development is downstream of that dam that was built in 1909. There's always the potential for dam failure. And you have a lot of residents and a lot of people in harm's way if there's anything that ever happens to that dam. Thank you very much for your consideration. Have a good evening.
Anyone else?
I I really just came, I'm Jill Hallows, 603 West Crimson Loop, Nampa. I really came to listen and learn, but I do have some feelings that have stirred listening to everyone, and I'm one of the respondents on the survey, so all those things that were listed, I was one of those. But the 80 feet has me concerned with that wildlife preserve. Seems like if there was a field's distance, whatever measurement you might imagine for a field, so the wildlife wouldn't feel like, yeah, that's a little close for me, I'm going to stay away. If you have to develop that area, I would say minimum of 1 per 5 acres or 1, for, anyway, if it has to be developed, please keep it minimal so the wildlife don't feel like you're getting too close and, making them back off. Secondly, I'm a big advocate for agriculture, and I really love to take care of myself with my own garden. So I'm always worried about water because come August or September, I know there was a kind of a threat year before last that the water would be shut off in August. Well, what do? That's my harvest time. I've worked all year long to get my vegetables and take care of myself. I think we have a right to do that. And when there's a threat of water being shut off in drought years, I get a little resentful when I drive by a new development with all the landscaping and the sprinklers going in, and yet I can't harvest my own garden. So water is super concerning to me, and I hope that you have a lot more information than I do about how much water is available, but I don't think that we should be penalized when water gets shut off because we have this huge new amount of growth, and then we can't even harvest our gardens without using our house water. That's, we pay at a way higher rate if we have to use our house water. So that's kind of what my gut was telling me tonight, and I appreciate you all listening, and thank you for all that you do. I know it's a lot of work.
Thank you. I think I just about got everybody. Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Okay. So, there was just a couple of questions. One was the gas station. We don't know of anything that's being planned yet, so we won't know if there's ever going to be a gas station out there or not. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, when development occurs in this area, they will be able to request annexation and zoning and request a zoning that's appropriate that will meet the future land use map. In that community mixed-use area, they could request, say, a BC zone, which is a commercial zone, which would allow for a gas station. At the time of annexation and zoning, though, City Council does have the discretion to put them into a development agreement and limit uses at that time if they wish to.
And then the other question he had was on the landscaping, which if it's city property, it'd be city taking care of it. If it's a subdivision landscaping, it'd be the HOA of the subdivision that's supposed to take care of it, correct?
Yep, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, take a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, nope, I guess. She had a comment. Used to having the applicant come back up. You're the applicant. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I'm happy to address some of the other concerns that were noted by the public in the public comments. Doug and I made notes here, so I'm happy to go through some of those. So anything water or infrastructure related, I'll let Daniel talk about if he feels like he needs to. But in terms of, I heard urban sprawl, and I heard concerns about that, and I also heard the concerns about eating up all the farmland. So when we did our area of impact expansion, it was a 2-3 year long negotiation with the county. And in our original proposals, we had talked about expanding Nampa's area of impact to the south past Deer Flat. And we ultimately decided to not go any further south than our current area of impact. The trade-off, if you will, was that we would ultimately plan for and eventually develop this southwest area and preserve farmland south of Nampa that is contiguous and not going to be that fragmented and sandwiched between two city limits currently. So that's kind of to address that urban sprawl. We're really trying to, move the density towards the city limits, and we have no intention at this time of going any further south for the city of Nampa. Let's see. In response to the real estate comment, I know someone was concerned that that was just feedback we received. The commission and staff took that into consideration. We obviously would like to create a plan that's feasible. We don't want to create something that's not going to be possible to be implemented. But as the commission, you have the ability to exclude that change if you would like and leave the plan document as originally presented, if that's something that you would like to do. You do have that ability. In terms of the 60 to 80 foot buffer for along the refuge, this is something that staff went back and forth on quite a bit. It's a balancing act because that is people's private property and it is their right at a certain point to develop it. So to require them to put hundreds of feet of their property into a buffer seemed a little unreasonable to staff. So again, it's that balancing. And yeah.
Sorry, Commissioner, Chair and Commissioners. So we brought up the buffering issue when we met with the Wildlife Refuge people, and particularly the people that are working on preservation and restoration in some areas. And we asked about that buffering, and they were happy with that buffering. They were pleased with that distance. Again, the refuge is federal land, and this is 80 feet on private property. So this is a buffer that would be required on already private property. And they were also gauging whether the trail system was going to meet their needs in getting access, and they were pleased with the plan that we had with the trail system as well. So, so from the Wildlife Refuge managers and the management perspective over there, they felt that that buffer was a good compromise. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I was just I think one other thing I heard was an environmental study. We have not done any kind of environmental study or impact on this area. Again, some of those concerns will be addressed at specific developments that come forward. At least especially when it comes to traffic impact studies and those things of that nature. And then in terms of...
Brianna, can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, certainly.
What kind of application would trigger an environmental impact study?
Daniel?
Daniel's the trigger.
There are no local triggers for an environmental impact study.
You walked all the way up there just to say that?
I did. So we do not have any local triggers for the city that require environmental impact studies. There are, when federal dollars are involved and that type of stuff, the city does those on projects where we have federal dollars where they're required, but local and private development on private ground does not trigger those.
So there's not like a proximity to the refuge that would require any of that? Okay.
Hold on, I got a couple of questions. So the gentleman asked about the dam, and I've had that question many times come up too, just thinking about driving over it. I usually think about it when I'm driving over it. How long is this going to last?
So the dam, when he asked that, the city is not directly involved in that, obviously. That is the Bureau of Reclamation, and specifically the Boise Project Board of Control is the owner of the upper and lower embankment dams there. They have done improvements to those over the years. I think what I saw, the last one was in the 2000s. They did some improvements over there. I have seen, in the past, it's been a while, flood, projection maps. But from the perspective of the risk of those earthen dams and the risk I would call low. But specifically, that's managed by the Boise Project Board of Control and the Bureau of Reclamation.
Well, it's probably what a lot of the folks were saying around Rexburg and Rigby.
And that was certainly a different situation than what we are talking about here.
But that also brings up a question I was going to ask about floodplain. Is any of this area in floodplain? Is that?
No.
Okay.
None of this is.
Until the dam goes, then it's probably all in a floodplain, right? And I joke here, I know, I get it. Okay. I was going to follow up on the wildlife refuge. Did they have any concerns about the development in this area as far as the plan itself goes? Not necessarily the buffer or anything like that, but just in general?
Their comments from the biologists is that the wildlife tends to adapt to as conditions change. Their comments about the development in the areas that they were pleased that it was a lower density development in this area. There's some wildlife movement that follow the canals and corridors particularly, but they were okay with the plan that we had. They didn't express any objection to the density or to the buffer that we had, and they were pleased to be able to work with us, and we offered to be able to work with them and the private property owners as to what that buffer could look like. So there's more work to be done in that area.
Thank you.
Anything else, Brianna?
I'll ask one to Doug and Brianna. Can you speak to the areas that were left out of this area plan, specifically nearby the refuge?
Yeah, the planning area. So the area, let's see, I guess Rodney has, it's a little further south that we expanded our area of city impact. I don't have it.
And we can only guess to what that area is since we don't have the actual map to refer to.
Other areas in southwest Nampa near the refuge.
Yes, so the areas that were adjacent to the refuge further south on Lake are designated as very low-density residential. We had no intention of changing that, so we didn't feel that it needed to be included in this planning effort because we didn't see a need to change it.
It would just end up being the same thing.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I want to make a comment about the dams. Right now, you cannot cross over the upper dam. You used to, 10 years ago, drive all the way across. It was the access to the Refuge Visitor Center. But after 9/11, that bridge that was all closed off. There's a gate up there which is about as strong as two straws stuck together. If you're concerned about anything, you should be more concerned about terrorism than you would structural engineering. That dam is going to stay there for as long as it needs to be until an earthquake comes along. But there's a lot of weak points if you were terrorists to destroy both of those dams. I worked out there for 10 years. We studied all that stuff. We looked at it all. So I'd be more concerned about somebody going crazy and doing something than I would be about the structure of the dam itself. It's not going to go anywhere. You guys can rest easily at night. You hear a big bang, then you might want to get up and run. Other than that, don't worry about it.
Steve, you just got put on a watch list.
No kidding.
That's okay. I can give them some good ideas.
Where's Chief Huff to follow you home? Any other questions for staff?
I think I do.
Okay.
Brianna, so we're looking at a specific area plan, which is basically going to steer development in this area of town, right? Is there anything in this plan that we could say is going to open the floodgates for development and all these subdivisions are going to come pouring into this area? There's no benefit. So I guess my question is we're planning, a future planning, steering plan, how soon would you expect that this is going to develop out what we have been proposed?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So our understanding, and we worked closely with Daniel on this, is that this area will be served from the Middlebury Basin sewer? You explain it, Daniel.
Those technical terms, they're
Yes.
tough, aren't they? Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gardner, really sewer drives, the planning effort doesn't drive the development.
Okay.
Where there's access to sewer drives the development. There is a approved development there north of this, and let me see, go around Middlebury up there. So, Middlebury north of Orchard, west of Midway, that is bringing sewer and going to be doing a lift station that will help serve that area. That subdivision is currently under development. They are doing their second phase. They've got probably 3 more phases and then a whole other development to the south that will end up bringing sewer down to Orchard. At that point, it will depend what development and property owners want to come in. I would not anticipate that adoption of this plan would affect the timeliness of any development there. It's really going to be the sewer driving that. And so logical development would be typically from the north heading south over a decent amount of time.
Okay, thank you. Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
Second?
Moved and seconded to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing's closed. What would you like to do?
Mr. Chair, I agree with a lot of what's been said, that the plan is very thoughtful. And like I said, this is a future planning plan, right? I mean, so it's not like this whole area is going to get inundated, next year by all these developments that are going to be pouring in and making that what we've seen. What we saw in the presentation is a future vision of what this area could be. And so as opposed to just haphazardly having all different kinds of subdivisions come in and a big smattering of everything, they're trying to direct, what this thing could look like by, being strategic about how they plan the area. And so I like what they've done. The refuge, that's all 1 acre, lots up in there, that's, going to be good buffering against that. And plus we've heard that that the Wildlife Preserve doesn't have any problem with this, and that they appreciate the buffering that's been built into the plan in the language. And so I think it's a great plan, and I'm for it.
And just to dovetail on what he was saying, I wrote down 4 words here as we were listening to the comments, and that was conceptual, proposed, potential, and a plan. Nothing's going to happen in the next few years, but it is an orderly way that the city can prepare for what's coming, and that is growth. And it's not like Daniel was just saying, it's not going to happen until we get the infrastructure out there. So it's going to be an orderly growth to this area out there. And I love that we have a plan, or that we're looking at a plan for this area. And I also, just a quick comment, I think about this quite often when it comes to the farmland. 89% of the folks in that area are ready to sell their land. If there was no plan in place and they just decided to go ahead and sell it anyways, what kind of a development would we be looking at? It would be probably pockmarked around there. And even if they were ready to sell their land and sold it, or decided not to sell it and not farm it, well, then we just have a bunch of vacant land sitting out there not being farmed. So, I don't know that just because it's not being developed, that it's also not being farmed. So, there's plenty of farmland out there in the south too, which is one of the reasons why we decided not to go I remember having that conversation. Not to go south because of all that farmland out there, but this is an orderly progress to the growth of the city, and I'm for it also.
Mr. Chair, one other thing that I would mention related to what Mr. Kirkman had said is that what this does is for those individuals who have the money to buy these lands out there, they're going to be developing it. This is a steering document that helps them to be able to dovetail what they want to do with the vision that the city has laid out for that area.
And I would say this isn't something that's been put together over the last few weeks either. It's taken a long time to get to this point, and a lot of community involvement, different committees and all kinds of different things online and mailings that have gone out to ask the community to be involved. And again, just off of what's been said, it is a plan. We need to have some kind of managed and organized growth, and the best way to do that, most responsible way to do that, is to plan with documents like this. Without it, it's chaos. So I like it. I think it's been well thought out. And again, it's a plan. It's a steering document. We're not married to anything. That's why we exist. So there can be, and we can approve or deny things based on our thoughts too. So,
with almost 90% of the homeowner, or the property owners out there wanting to sell and be developed, that's the farmers that are saying it's just too tough to farm this area anymore. It's just it's a pain. So, you know, the farmers themselves are saying it's time for us to get out of this little area. So, you know, farmers don't sell their land if they want to continue to farm. So, and I have a hard time telling a private property owner what he can and cannot do with his property. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Dapper?
I kind of want to echo some of that sentiment. Like, in my mind, it's the job of the county to preserve farmland, and it's the job of the city to provide housing. And this is a way to kind of delineate that. And we agreed with the county not to develop south to preserve that farmland, but we're taking this opportunity to provide a plan for us to make more houses, right? And when you bring up the refuge, you know, and hearing from the refuge and how much they like the 80-foot buffer, like that helps me feel good about this idea that those who are paying close attention to that refuge like the plan, and it gives me confidence that it's a step we should probably take.
Peggy, you're the only one who haven't spoken, or me. So who wants to go last, you or I?
I can go. I think that it's been well thought out. I love that there was so much community involvement in it, because that's, you know, we get a lot of comment that way, and having everything laid out so that some big company can't just come in here and say, I'm putting 40 apartment buildings right here. I mean, I like that, you know, they can come in and say, oh, well, the city's not even going to talk to us about it. So we eliminate a lot of that stuff right up front. So I think it's a good plan.
Well, it's unanimous because I like the plan also. I think it's a well-thought-out plan, and I would really hope that the farmers didn't sell their land and this would come up for sale and they could put homes in there, but they have a right to they've earned their living, they've worked hard farming the land. Now they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor, and I think they should be able to do that. If you don't like it, buy the land from them. Those farmers would sell it to you just as well as they would a developer. So if you don't like it, get together with some friends and buy the land and put in another dog park or something, whatever you want. But absent that, I think this is about as good as it's going to get.
I have a comment.
Oh, wait a minute now.
With your permission, Steve. I agree with everybody here. It's better to have a plan than not have a plan. We don't have a plan, it's just going to turn into more subdivision. And that's my big concern. I think the benefit of this, in this area will be realized if we do have a commercial area. That's how we alleviate the traffic, by not having people drive to these other areas, right? Like was brought up during the testimony. If we have, that central area. My concern is that's not what's going to materialize. that this will end. If this ends up all being residential, then all of the problems that have been brought up here will come to pass. All the traffic. If this is a place where people are leaving and not coming to, then yes, the traffic will get worse and all that stuff. My concern is, we've already seen a change where, like was brought up, a developer said, I don't want to have to provide commercial on the bottom floor, it's hard to lease. Tough. I don't, like, that's what we're trying to do over here. We have to be patient and let our plan work out. If we, we do this so often where we say, well, this is a BC zone, but we're going to do a CUP for apartment building. I could see that happening here because that's the quick, easy profit. We constantly stretch a zone just a little bit, just one parcel, we stretch a zone one by one. So basically what I'm saying is, I like the plan, I'm concerned about sticking to it. I'm concerned about that the first developers are always residential because you need residential in order to build the commercial. And I guess I could just restate it a few different ways, but that's basically my concern is that we're planning for this commercial to make this hub to where the people in Southwest Nampa don't have to drive to other areas of the city. Is it actually going to play out that way, or are we just going to end up with a bunch of townhomes because that's the easy, quick buck?
Mr. Chair, and I agree with you on that, Drew, and I was thinking along those same lines, is that it's not impossible, it's just difficult. And a developer's going to want to go for the, path of least resistance to get things done. And so we know it can be done. It's been done in Meridian. There's apartments over there with ground floor retail, and it looks like it works great. So I'm not saying that it can't be done, and I would be all for striking it with a condition.
But that's the beauty of a plan, is that we wait until it gets to us, and then we can address it at that point, whether it's compatible, whether we approve a CUP, whether we recommend a zoning change, or whatever it might be. But for now, it's just, and plans change. I mean, that's what, or can change. They don't.
That's what I'm worried about, is that we say, well, we'll let this CUP come in and be an apartment complex, and a year later, well, that's one more CUP, and then eventually there's no more commercial left. We have a bunch of housing.
Putting in language to build in the exception.
I don't know
And
if
we
there
don't
can
want
be
to
any-
build in the exception.
Can there be any teeth to the plan to prevent that, or are we just relying on this future commission?
Mr. Chair, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. So the designation that we have proposed for that place where it's community mixed use, that center commercial hub, that community mixed use designation on the comprehensive plan already has teeth in that it has to be more than 50% commercial right now. So we have had situations where a development comes in and says, well, I'd like to be mostly residential and put a little commercial there. And if it's community mixed use, we say, I'm sorry, that is not allowed here. So I would say that there's teeth already. I think where there's a potential for changes there is, stretching designations across property lines. And in other specific area plans, we have written into code, so we'll come back with some code language for you to consider to add the Southwest Nampa specific area plan into code. And in other areas, we've said that designation can't be stretched in specific area plans. So with your comment there, we can come back with that kind of language and ensure that that doesn't happen, that it doesn't spread the residential so that it's another big swath of orange like we've had before. I do think there's teeth in place, and we can certainly strengthen those teeth by putting it into code there.
Thanks. When you say 50%, is that like acreage of footprint, or is that square footage of building?
Gross area.
So just footprint of the, okay.
That make you feel better?
Little. I mean, we still have to trust the future Planning and Zoning Commission
Right, and
when the applications come forward.
I would venture to say you're probably at least 10 plus years out before you're going to see that commercial start, even begin to get on somebody's drawing board out there. But I could be wrong, but
No, you're right, because they need the residents there first.
there first.
And so people don't want to build the commercial out there. That's what we're kind of seeing happen on Middleton, right? That they can't make it work, so it's like, might as well put in houses.
If I'm getting this right, if we approve this and then city council approves this, then you will make that new section and come back with all the code just for this section. And that's where we can have the bigger teeth into it that says this can't turn into residential more than, has to be no more than 49%.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So would this, does this motion include the proposed code changes that you, so if we just do this motion as stated, it would not adopt those code changes that one developer recommended?
That's correct. Oh, sorry, so the developer recommended or the?
The developer, realtor, I can't remember,
Okay, so-
recommended some code changes.
This one right here.
This right here. Well, and then we made these code changes in response to his or her recommendations.
So
would our motion adopt this, or?
These aren't plan changes, these aren't code changes.
So yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I guess let's clarify. This is in the plan text, not code. So this is in the plan document, so it's not codified yet. It was a recommendation from, this local real estate agent broker. And so staff did add in some additional language, and it's not to not allow the retail on the first floor, it's to allow other options as well.
To allow residential all the way down, right?
Yes, they could do retail on the first floor. We're not saying they couldn't do that. We're just saying that they could, when they come before with a proposal, they could integrate the residential like behind and then have a commercial building up front, rather than it being one building.
It doesn't reduce the amount of commercial they're required to build?
No,
It just
it does not.
allows different configuration?
It just allows a different configuration, correct.
And Mr. Chair, may I just speak to who that person is that we're talking about? This is Mike Pena, who is the consultant hired for the Nampa Development Corporation. We value his input. He is one of the top brokers in the valley for commercial development. So that's the connection we have to somebody who knows what they're talking about. And so we went with his comments.
So it wasn't a friend of the mayor or somebody that came up to her and said, hey, I got to talk to you about something.
I know Mike, and Mike knows the commercial end of this valley very, very well, and if he makes a recommendation like that, you should probably at least consider it, because he knows what he's talking about when it comes to leasing out commercial around this valley. So.
And the way you just explained it makes me feel better. I thought they were looking for, well, it's hard to lease commercial, let's make it so we can do some residential instead. But that's not.
No, that is not the intent. The intent is just that the buildings can be separate rather than them having to be together.
Yeah,
okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. I'm done, I think.
Are you sure?
Are you solved?
No, I'm glad we have a plan. I don't want it to all become houses.
Just one development after another, and then we have no commercial down there at all. So.
Well, and like you said, we've got to trust the future us, right?
Which sometimes I
So
don't.
we're giving them a map
Yeah.
that we hope they'll follow. That's all we can do at this point. So.
And things change. I mean, in 10, 15 years when this starts to get developed, it may change. Who knows? We can only try to plant our stake in the ground and give them some guidance on the way, but anything else?
So I guess, Rodney, as far as the code, the enhanced teeth in the code, does that have to be put in as a condition? Or will that automatically be put in once you adopt the area plan?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, that will come back. We need guidance first. This is guidance. So once our plan is in place, then we go back and we bring to you code changes to reflect specific items to make sure that what is in the plan, what is in the guidance is going to get done.
And then if we want to add teeth to that code, we can at that time as.
You can certainly recommend it. Council has
All
the
right.
decision. Yeah.
Okay.
Done, Tom.
Done? Give me a motion.
Time.
I mean, I have to do it?
Yep.
All right. I move that We recommend the adoption of the Southwest Napa specific area plan with the proposed change to the community mixed-use land use description, the comprehensive plan map amendment that includes the boundaries and land uses in the Southwest Nampa specific area plan, and the comprehensive plan text amendment to include the definition of the Southwest Nampa specific area plan in Chapter 15.1.1 of the Nampa 2040 Comprehensive Plan for the City of Nampa, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we please take a break?
5 minutes be enough for you?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. So
After one item.
2 hours.
Flying right along.
We'll start back up at 7:55.
Huh? Yeah, right?
Yeah. Okay, 7:55, we'll call this meeting back to order. Please. Okay. Item number 2, annexation and zoning of a total of 100.52 acres with approximately 93.52 acres into RS7 and 7 acres into BC zoning district, potential development agreement, planned unit development and subdivision preliminary plat approval for Brookhaven subdivision at 0 and 4101 Alma Lane, a total of 100.52 acres and 2 parcels for Patrick Connor representing Weekabach LP and Lionwood Properties LLC applicant.
Perfect. Good evening, Commission. My name is Patrick Connor. Address is 701 South Allen Street, Meridian. Good to see you all tonight. I'm presenting the Brookhaven PUD. Tonight, we're seeking recommendation for approval for annexation, PUD approval with an RS7 underlining zone, and a preliminary plat approval. Before I start, kind of want to give some background on why we're presenting this project and what kind of gets us going to work each day. So the vision for our company at Hubble Homes is to be an unwavering source of good in people's lives and to make people's home their sanctuary. And when it comes to designing this project, we're focusing a lot on building one community for a broad array of home buyers at many stages in their life, whether it's your first-time home buyer, family life, retirees, or empty nesters. We're trying to satisfy that in our community within our amenities and also the home product that we are providing. So here's a vicinity map of the project. We are in the southeast corner of the city. And here's a vicinity map of what's kind of around us. So we have a CBH project to our north and to our west as Fenway, New York Landing, as well as other projects to our north, Lennar, Terrace Falls, and Hayden Harvest Creek to our north. You have seen me before and present this project before, summer of 2023. It was a little bit different than before. So last time I presented to you all a year and a half ago, we had unknown sewer capacity for this area of town. We were only asking for annexation of the whole property and then preliminary platting the area that we could sewer. At the time, the plan was not very creative. The amenities and the open space were not up to the city's standards. We also were proposing RS6 zone as opposed to RS7, which is what our neighboring properties are like. And we had quite a few number of homes of 447 single-family lots. This time around, I get into more detail on this. We have confirmed sewer capacity in the system. We have a very thoughtful plan, in my opinion. We are going for a PUD in order to offer a variety of housing opportunities there. We have greater than 50% open space, a lot of different PUD level amenities, which I'll get into. And we have about 90 less lots at 338 residential lots and commercial. And commercial, reasoning being is between the time that we submitted the last project and this one, the comp plan changed from medium density residential to mixed use residential. And so in talking to the city, we had to pretty much pull out a whole new plan to bring this one forward and add commercial on the north and the south side of the project. So the current zoning, RS7, RS8.5, and RS6 around us, we're proposing a PUD with RS7 underlying zone. In the circled areas, we're proposing BC commercial zone. So here's a shot of our preliminary plat. It's about 100 acres overall, 338 single-family lots, mix of 50, 60, and 70-foot lots, and then 16.9% open space with an overall density about 3.4 units per acre. So the PUD, so one reason why we, like I mentioned before, it gives us an opportunity to have a broader, multiple types of housing product that we can deliver on decreasing that maximum lot size so we can appeal to different buyers at different times in their life. And also gives us a chance to really beef up our amenities to reach the city's goals of creating complete communities. Here's a shot of some of our homes that we're currently building on 50-foot lots, 60 to 70-foot lots, and we have a lot of new home plans that we've been working on the past couple of years These are homes that we're building up in Meridian and Star that we hope to bring to Brookhaven as well. Another thing with our new parent company, as of about a year and a half ago, we are getting real in the weeds of creating a much better housing product to build beyond just the level of code. So everything from Energy Star certification, so the one that we're focused on right now is Energy Star 3.2 certified. Starting in 2025, all of our homes will be under this level of Energy Star. And what that means is focus on energy efficiency, appliances, complete thermal enclosure of the house to make sure it's insulated from elements of the outside, hot and cold, water moisture management, and it's all verified by third party. Woodside has used the Ibicus and Perform third-party inspector to look at homes, and we've had our homes inspected continually, and there's a constant audit to improve that. And so we're making changes to make sure that we're safe, but we're also building to the top quality of standards. And that's something that we're really excited about, bringing a better quality home to this community in Nampa. One thing I talk about before I dive into amenities is people a lot of times talk about the three places. So the first place we talk about is our home. It's private, it's our sanctuary, it's personal, it's safe. It's usually our kind of intimate family. The second place is where we spend probably too much of our time, which is at our workplace or in the office or at school. This is our more professional education focused labor. What we're trying to focus on in this community and creating a real sense of place is this third place. And that's where people like to socialize, recreate, meet up, hang out. This can be a church, a playground, a park, a library. We're trying to make this community something outside of just homes. We can build great homes. We can do all that. We can handle that. But part of this being a PUD and being a land use design, a complete community, we're trying to focus on creating this third place. And so the PUD code allows for, requires us to have major amenities. And the two that we're qualified for is this large play picnic area, which we have 2 large playgrounds, 3 picnic tables under a shelter, and 1 acre of grassy field. In addition, we have basketball court and 2 pickleball courts, so checking those boxes. But we want to do a little bit more. So we have a fenced-in dog park, which I'll show, an area of community garden, an outdoor fire pit, a pathway along the Ramsey Canal, about 7 acres of open grass play, and like I said before, about 17 acres of qualified open space. So we'll dive into the amenities here. This is kind of how they're located. The goal overall with our amenities and our parks is we want everyone to be able to walk at least 2 or 3 blocks and be at a local park, whether it's a small pocket park or our large central park in the middle of the project. So I'll kind of go by area. So we're looking here in the north part. So in this area, we have a community garden, shelter at the picnic table, open grassy fields, pathways, and some open areas for play. In the central areas, we'll have our central park. So this is kind of where all the big amenities are. So we have natural playgrounds. We'll show you some renderings in a bit. 2 pickleball courts, basketball court, over 3 acres of open space, and then the pathway along the drain. Some shots and renderings of that central park area. It's, again, in the middle of the community, so it's accessible to as many people as we can. These natural play areas have a lot more undulation in the grounds. They're built into the landscape, so they have tunnels and climbing walls and things like that. I know from personal experience and having a young family, my son absolutely loves playing on anything that he's not really supposed to play on. So you give him, a hillside and some rocks and some pretty exciting places they can kind of test their limits, and it kind of opens up to more creativity, exploration, and play. Well, obviously we'll have typical playgrounds as well, but we want to make this something a little special and unique. So we do have a younger kids play area and then an older kids play area, and in the center is that picnic shelter with the 3 picnic tables. Pickleball court, of course, everyone loves pickleball, so we have 2 courts there, fenced in on one side of the central park, and the other side has a basketball court. And again, that's a shot of that central park area. So kind of in the northeast quadrant is where I've talked about having the open field and then the fenced-in dog park area in that north corner, and then having a small pocket park with the fire pit for the folks that live in that area to meet up and hang out. The Ramsey Drain runs along the Ramsey Drain on the west side of this section. It also points out that blue box, so that's about 1 acre of BC commercial zone that I'll get into in a little bit, but we wanted to provide kind of a neighborhood commercial use here, and ideally a use there would be like a daycare, school, a restaurant, a cafe, a shop, something that folks can come together, a real business that people can use in the community. Obviously, it's open for people outside the community, but it's something that we want to be accessible by pedestrian or by bike to service the neighborhood. So that's the hope of having it in that particular area. Here's an example of that in the town I grew up in North Texas, where there's an old house that someone changed it to a coffee shop and kind of a work from home kind of environment. So that's shown there in that white building. And then the building below is a community preschool and daycare. On the south side of the project, we do have more commercial, and talking to the city about, we have this mixed use comprehensive plan. We want to make sure we have the right kind of adjacent uses. We decided along Lewis Lane was the best place for that. Again, it supports office, retail, and professional services. This is how it integrates into the neighboring communities, the CVH communities to our north and to our west. We have a mid-mile collector that runs to the middle of the project, and that will be delivered in phase 3. A little bit about the impact of our community I just have a couple more slides if you give me just a couple more minutes. Thank you. We do have a traffic impact fee to the Happy Valley and Locust Lane roundabout of almost $500,000, and then there's over $500,000 of impact to the Nampa Fire District for infrastructure additions and capital purchases. This is a shot of our phasing plan, developing 4 phases over the next, we expect the first phase to come on in summer of 2027, if things go the right direction and we can stay on our schedule, with the finish out sometime in 2030, 2031 of delivering that final phase. So thank you for your time tonight. I'm open to any questions, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Here you do. Thank you.
Thank you. My helper over here. The amenity that had like a concrete pad with pole fencing around it, I didn't realize what that is.
It was either the pickleball court or the...
Go back.
This,
passed it already.
this one?
Nope, keep going back.
Or forward?
Nope.
There, right.
There you go.
Yes.
The center one on the right.
Yes, sir. Commissioner, this is the dog park. So it's a fenced-in dog park. That concrete square with the fencing around it, that's, if you've been to a dog park recently, you can walk your dogs and they're on the leash, and you'll have a chance to unleash your dog there, and then you open a separate gate for them to go out. It kind of eliminates kind of the chaos of unleashing your dog when other dogs are...
Sallyport.
Yeah.
If you don't know what one of those is, we can show you. But you only get to go one direction.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll hear from staff and bring you back up if we have some afterwards.
Thank you.
Who's got this one? Christy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The action requested from you this evening is a recommendation of approval to City Council for annexation, planned unit development, preliminary plat, and zoning to RS7 and BC. The request is to zone 89.32 acres to RS7 for single-family detached homes, and 11.19 acres to BC for future commercial uses. The property is contiguous with the city limits on the north and west, where it abuts RS 8.5 and RS 7 zoned properties. The property is currently under the jurisdiction of Canyon County, but it is within Nampa's city of impact area. Surrounding zoning, to the north, RS 8.5 is the New York Landing subdivision. To the south is county agricultural land. To the east is county agricultural land. And to the west is RS7, which is the Fenway subdivision. The city does have adequate capacity to serve this property with sewer, water, and irrigation. The development will contribute towards a private sewer pump station constructed with the New York Landing subdivision to pump sewage across the New York Canal. The project will be required to construct utilities to and through the property at the time of development. This property is required to dedicate 40 feet from the section line on Elma and 50 feet from the section line on Lewis. The 2020 functional classification map reflects a future mid-mile collector road, which he has indicated they would install. The proposed roundabout at the intersection of South Mountaintop Way and South Falling Star Way needs to be revised to include an appropriate splitter island. The proposed site access off of Elma meets the city access management spacing requirements, and there are no site distance concerns at this time. The secondary emergency vehicle access is required, and I believe that they revised that plan. I think I show it a little bit later, but they revised the plan to show that secondary access. The internal road layout appears to meet the design standards for the city. The traffic impact study has been reviewed and approved by the City of Nampa Engineering Division. The traffic impact study indicated that there are no project-triggered impacts to the intersections analyzed within the study. The red circles on this map show the areas which are not specifically the responsibility of the project. That would be the intersection of Happy Valley Road and Alma Lane, where there will be an increase in southbound right turn lane length warranted under the existing conditions. And the Southside Boulevard and Alma Lane intersection, southbound right turn lane is warranted under 2025 background conditions. Again, these are not specifically the responsibility of this project. The green circle is the responsibility of this project. That is Happy Valley Road and Lewis Lane, and that is required to install a southbound right turn lane. The purple circles are what are indicated in the city's 5-year transportation capital improvement plan. Southside Boulevard and Locust Lane, there are intersection improvements planned there, and Happy Valley and Locust Lane, there are intersection improvements on our plan for that area. So as far as correspondence, we received comments from engineering. We received comments from the fire department. They indicate that this project is located approximately 3.8 miles from fire station number 2 with a response time of 8 minutes. This subdivision will add approximately 947 residents to the 338 lots with an increased personnel demand of 0.95 firefighter positions. The GIS department commented on a couple of the street names. Code compliance has indicated that weeds should be kept cut and noxious weeds destroyed. If it is brought into the city, then it will need to meet code. And then there were red line comments on the landscape plans. As far as the comp plan analysis goes, the property is located in an area that is designated as residential mixed use on the future land use map. The comp plan outlines the purpose and goals of mixed-use development, for example, to build neighborhoods with reasonable access to services, to encourage innovative design, creative placement, and sustainable function of structures, to encourage uses that are compatible with each other and surrounding land uses, to provide opportunities for quality, affordable housing, to promote efficient use of resources, and to encourage smart growth development. There are a number of guiding principles found in the comprehensive plan that are outlined as facts in your staff report, a few of those being defined density, smart growth principles, building design, housing affordability, and the need to provide a variety of single-family housing types with strategies on how to achieve that. The comprehensive plan also defines compatibility, residential areas, and neighborhood commercial strategies. All of these guiding principles have been found to be met by this project. The proposed BC and RS7 zoning districts are permitted zones under the comprehensive plan future land use map designation. Structures located in the BC zoning districts will be subject to design review standards upon submittal of building permits. The preliminary plat, like he stated, offers 15%, 17% open space is required to have 15%. There are areas of drainage that are included in the overall usable open space calculation, and they will be designed to be usable spaces. The seepage beds will be fully sodded, and improvements will be below ground. Ponds were intentionally avoided due to maintenance challenges. There is a 25-foot landscape buffer required along Alma and Lewis, and again, that landscape plan has been reviewed, and there are comments on that plan. So a plan unit development shall adhere to the applicable residential zoning district densities and lot size limitations with the options of increasing that density by 20% and or reducing the minimum lot size by 20%. This project is located on 100.51 acres. The project proposes a density of 3.362 dwelling units per acre, which is allowed in the residential mixed use, which has a density of 2.51 to 8 dwelling units per acre, so it falls on the lower end of that. Small residential lots are encouraged in a PUD. The edge of developments within the residential mixed-use land use designation should be compatible with the existing residential development in the area. It proposes the majority of the lots under the minimum required lot size for the zone. I will get to that with the analysis of the plat. Planned unit developments are intended to make special allowances to bulk standards outlined in that zone, while also providing enhanced amenities as a trade-off. So again, they have provided more than the 2 qualified open space elements. They have provided almost 17 acres of open space, and some of these amenities, as he stated, might include a dog park, pocket parks, play areas, picnic shelters with tables, pickleball courts, basketball courts, pathways, and multiple play areas that are all greater than 1 acre in size. This project also provides a number of connections. Pathway connections are provided throughout the development via sidewalks and paved pathways and gravel pathways. They are not required PUDs, just based on the fact that we do give special allowances for smaller lot sizes with that trade-off. They are not required to have the periphery compatibility in their lot sizes, but there aren't really any lots immediately adjacent to the perimeter that they would have to actually be compatible with, so that's a good thing. The ratio of land uses for a PUD larger than 5 acres, they have to have a majority of residential use, so over 50%, and shall have no less than 5% of the land use as commercial. The area designated for the commercial zoning here is approximately 7% based on the gross project area. And there are very few commercial uses already established in this area, so they are needed. Uses within a mile, and this is not an all-inclusive list, New Horizons School plus a couple others, large county residential lots, agricultural land, medium-density subdivisions, and a religious facility. So this plat has been analyzed based on the PUD code of 1026, the RS code of 10.8, the BC code of 1016, and the landscaping code of 1033. The density meets the requirements for the RMU. The lot sizes range from 5,600 square feet to 11,337 square feet. The maximum lot size allowed in the RS7 zone is 14,000. The largest proposed is the 11,337. The minimum lot size allowed through the 20% reduction is 5,600 square feet. The smallest proposed is 5,600 square feet. There are 266 lots out of the 338 proposed that will employ that 20% reduction. Some of those lots measure at 6,996 square feet and decrease down to the 5,600. All lot depths and widths meet code as stated without any reductions through the PUD. So there are 3 criteria that we must find when we are talking about an annexation. The first one is that the landowners have consented to the annexation. The second one is the property is contiguous to the city limits. And the third one is the area can reasonably be assumed to be available for orderly development of the city because it is completely surrounded by city limits. There are services readily available. Right-of-way improvements will be required to be made and will create a new mid-mile collector between Alma and Locust, and the property sizes match the surrounding developed properties. There are also 3 criteria that need to be found to determine the zoning. First of all, staff finds that it is a compatible zone for the area. It does propose a compatible use for the area, and it is in the interest of the public because of the utilities being readily available, the traffic infrastructure improvements that are going to be made, and the neighborhood services that it will provide. City staff concludes that all of these criteria are met through the facts that are stated in your staff report. These are your recommended conditions of approval. These are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Christie, I have one question. I'm looking at the police report from Lieutenant Peck, and the number one service call, number one call to the police department for this area is for a vicious dog. The number one call. Do the public have a right to know where this dog lives? What?
It's public record.
Is that your dog? Okay. I guess we do now. Okay. All right, that was just, that was the question was, do people have a right to know where this dog is at? The answer was yes.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we will open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up?
We have no one signed up to speak on this item.
Is there anybody here that,
Looks like he was expecting to.
come on up, give us your name. That's all right. Come on up and give us your name and address and
So Dean Casio, 9975 Tercel Lane. I live right there in Happy Valley in Lewis. Tercel, one block there from Victor back. I went to all the original planning, community planning hearings that this man held back in the original plans. And, you know, we heard all of it and we thought it was all okay. So I'm like kind of shocked that we've changed all this. Because we didn't have any notification in our neighborhood that any of this was changing. We thought, but I am happy with it because it's less dense, so that's but like I objected earlier, the commercial property, I'm worried about a gas station being there and contaminating the water. Also, the southern commercial area that we have that strip there, our side, you know, we're pretty rural over there, farming and stuff. I'm worried about like, I was just wishing that they could put their commercial stuff in the center of their property because, you know, I've been there since 2008, and my house is actually the very first house that Hubble ever built on their own property, is they were willing to make their doors and hallways wider for my son's wheelchair. So I'm really happy with Hubble. I don't really object to Hubble, but why do they have to put the commercial property right on my doorstep? Couldn't they put it internally in their development? Because those people are coming to that commercial property, but on property, commercial areas coming to me, and I kind of, I just don't think it's conducive to the Lincoln folk neighborhood. And also I'm worried again about the landscaping. I'm worried about that the HOA and Hubble and those guys, once everything's in, they'll stop paying for it, they'll stop the maintenance on of it. But that's it. But I do actually like the density of it. I think it's kind of cool because I know it's coming. But if they could just push the commercial property inside, or the commercial development inside their own development.
okay, thank you.
Jill Hallows, 603 West Crimson Loop, Nampa. So, and looking at the improvement spots for the intersections, I did not see anything showing Locust at Highway 45. And this will obviously impact that intersection some. I know that that's an ITD intersection, but we've had a need for that intersection to be improved because it is super dangerous. And I would like to see something worked out with ITD to move that project up to get a light in there or whatever it is they're planning to do before we add all these other vehicles to that intersection. Right now, I can't even use that intersection. There's Greenbrier Estates is a 55 and over community. We have older drivers that move a little slower, and at that intersection, if you're not quick on the pedal, you can get wiped out. So we all go around to Greenhurst and go to the stoplight. So I know there's a traffic study that's been done on Locust that actually shows that the usage is a little bit low. Well, that's why, because people don't dare use that intersection. So would you try to work with ITD to get that, pushed up a little bit on their timeline before we add more to it, because it's already beyond dangerous? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could. Daniel Badger, City Engineer.
Where did you go? You were sitting right here.
The city and the state, we have been working with ITD. The original schedule for the installation of the 12th and Locust signal was in 27. That has been advanced to 25, so it will be going in this next year.
Thank you. There you go. See? All you had to do was ask. Anybody else like to speak for, against, or undecided on this project?
I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. Sorry.
We know you were here before, but...
Oh, yeah. 9975 Tearsell Drive, Nampa, Idaho, and the name is Andrew Cassio. I was really pleasantly surprised with how this project has, how the developers kind of come in and revamped the project. I really like the road connectivity and the level of open space in it. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, and this isn't the Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe this was the City Council. The reduction in density from RS6 to RS7. Because in the short term, this is a very easy way to get out of having additional traffic impacts with lowering costs. And even in the medium run, it's kind of nice. But in the long run, we also have to consider that this doesn't really reduce the number of people who need to live somewhere, who need to live in the city and in surrounding communities. And what we end up doing is it just means that we have more development further and further and further out. And that ends up meaning people have to drive longer. It means more cars on the road. And it means that we have less residents per mile of sewer line, of water line, of road, and that makes the cost burden go up per resident. So, I would really, really like to see something along the lines of this plan, but put back with the higher density. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Donnell Gingrich, forgot my address. I'm right there in the corner. First of all, I don't know what brush this fella crawled out from under, but I wanted to say one thing about the plan Patrick has. It's nicer. I'm in the top right-hand corner, is where I live. 4517 Alma Lane. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. And I spoke the last time we had this meeting. Right by the dog park. I'm glad you moved that commercial away from that corner, because there's a hill there. I don't know, a pretty bad hill. Cars go screaming by there. And I'm not sure if the access has been moved down or farther to the west or not. But I don't know if a traffic study's been watched there, but that's kind of a nasty little spot right there. But I just want to say positive comments about the design. I think it's better. even though we have five small little houses right outside our place there, but, you know, we're thankful. We have, live out there in the country. I know things will change, but, you know, that's progress. We always say, everybody says we can't really stop it too much, so I guess I'd give Patrick a heads up on that, I would. So carry on, Patrick, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, just a couple comments, Commission. Thank you those who came up to share. So the commercial, that's something you all can discuss as far as what potential uses could go there in the BC zone. I will say that obviously it's something we've all talked about even today, protecting commercial, having the opportunity there, especially on the outside of town. So it's something that we want to continue to see there along Lewis Lane. As far as buffering it from neighboring properties, there will be a landscape buffer along Lewis Lane, potentially a berm, I don't know. But there will be some kind of separation there from the residential. You know, I appreciate the comments about the adjustments that we made to the project. We did shift the commercial along Alma Lane over with Don's comments during the neighborhood meetings. The access to that commercial, there will be an access from within the neighborhood. So that's something that we wanted to have so it feels more as part of the neighborhood there. And then in regards to the density, I memean, that's kind of one of the things that, you know, it's a give and take in this process and that we worked with last time. The council did want to see less density. But the PUD actually allows us to create kind of more close-knit neighborhoods and then having more space of open space and parks and stuff to kind of break it up. So that's what we kind of try to do here. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything else or any other questions.
I did jot a question down here, and it's probably going to be back to Ms. Watkins, but I thought I heard you mention the collection ponds were eliminated due to maintenance. Did I hear that right, or am I just making things up?
I can share about that.
Thank
So
you.
the stormwater systems that we have in our project, so a lot of times you either do a seepage bed or you do a pond, and the beds work pretty much the same, but they're a little bit easier to maintain because they're all below the sod and they're deeper. They're a bit more expensive to install, obviously, than a pond, but they're usable open space and doing it that way. A pond, you may see a lot of times they're dirt and muddy at the bottom. They're kind of unsightly sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hold water and it'd be a bit of a nuisance. Usually one pond can service a larger area than a number of beds, but for this particular project, I really wanted to make sure that we had as much open space as possible, and so the beds is the route that we went.
Okay, so that was your decision to put those
Yes.
seepage beds in instead of the collection ponds?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved to second to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, what do you want to do?
Well, first, I would like to tell the developer that I appreciate their improvements that they've made, and especially on the energy-efficient homes. I think that goes a long way to correcting some of the things that have been wrong in your developments in the past. I like the reduction that you made. Could have been more, but you're within the law, so that's fine with me. But I'm just happy that you're making improvements. This new company is making improvements, and I'm going to support you until we find out otherwise.
Mr. Chair, a quick question to Rodney, Daniel. What's the timeline for the Locust Happy Valley oval roundabout?
So we are collecting extraordinary impact fees on the developments around that. We do not have a specific construction year for that yet.
Can't happen soon enough, just wanted to add that.
You live out that way, don't you?
Yes.
So I think this is a really nice looking development. I have concerns with it. Hearing the neighbors come and testify and not hating it is changing my concern. Like, it's like, I mean, I don't live out that side anymore. I used to.
You live in Cedar now, right?
It's nice, but it seems like we're not ready to go all the way to Lewis Lane yet, especially with commercial. I always vote in favor of multifamily close to the freeway. I vote in favor of this specific area plan we just heard tonight, where we're filling in, and in favor of infill developments because it avoids sprawling out further south specifically. I guess it's inevitable we eventually will, but this seems, I'd like to see us get housing closer into the core first. But I don't hate this project, so I'm kind of torn, and I hope somebody will sway me one way or the other. But that's my main concern when I first saw this before the hearing tonight was this seems too soon to be spreading this far south. Especially, the commercial on Alma Lane is kind of odd to me. Was there a requirement that we had it on both sides of the development, Christie, or?
What's your question?
She just tunes everything out when I start talking. Is there a requirement that the commercial has to be on both sides? Because, I don't know, it just seems out of place on that Alma Lane side.
The Alma Lane side?
I think to reach that 7% that they're required to have for that mixed use, and then to spread it out throughout the neighborhood.
But the commercial on the north side on Alma is only accessible from inside the development. It's not access from, if I heard you correctly, it doesn't have access from Alma Lane, correct? It could.
It definitely has it from inside.
Okay.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of homes here, but not enough to support this. I mean, it would have to draw people from outside, I would assume, the neighborhood.
Can I?
Unless it's a daycare.
And there's other neighborhoods right there. But can I,
That's
Mr.
true.
Chair, you mind?
If he's done.
Are you good?
I am excited to hear what you have to say, man.
Me too.
First of all, I think that he covered the phasing plan, right? And so it's going to be phased. And I think that the neat thing about it is having the commercial there, like in a lot of things we see, the commercial may not develop right away, right? But having it accounted for, and like one of the participants said, right? They said, you know, you get the commercial by the residences, you reduce traffic.
Yeah, and that's what I just said on the last item, right? I understand that.
Yeah.
Just
And so I think having that ability to have that there in the development is good. I think the other thing is that it's going to be phased, but they've accounted for, you know, it's a good plan, right? Because of all the open space that they've provided, amenities for lots of different interests. I think it's a really well thought out plan. And the fact that it's phased, it means, you know, it's going to develop when it needs to develop, right? And so I don't think they're going to go and build hundreds of homes and just have them sit there. And so it'll develop as the demand comes along. And so it'll develop at an appropriate pace, I would say, probably.
So are we going to, if the future developments along Lewis, are we going to have them also have their BC zones on Lewis?
It'd make more sense than Alma because Alma's not much of a,
Exactly.
not very long.
Commissioner Morgan, the way the code reads, the way the comp plan reads for the residential mixed-use areas is they are required to have a certain portion of their development be commercial. However, if it's a small enough development that it doesn't make sense for them to put a commercial component in it, they can also say, I'm within a quarter mile of this commercial service, whatever. Now, until this happens, this is kind of that first step, right? So yeah, I think along Locust, there will be more commercial, but I don't know that it will necessarily.
Locust or Lewis?
Or sorry, Lewis. I don't know that it'll be required for every development.
Sure. Like, are we creating a commercial hub down here where everybody can go, or is it just going to be kind of a one-off thing, I guess is what I had
I
in mind
think
with that
we'd like
question.
to create a commercial hub to provide services for the people in South Nampa.
But it would probably look more like what's at Greenhurst and Southside right now. A quick little strip with a dentist office, Chevron, yeah, that kind of thing.
A great restaurant.
Yeah, it is good food.
Daniel, I've got a question. When we're looking at developments like this out a ways from the city, when they say, we have sewer capacity, are thoughts to that capacity about what's not developed between the city and this development brought up?
So we generally look at it from a standpoint of what is there today and what we can serve, what we have the ability to serve now. We are not doing a full analysis of if everything between them and the core of the city were developed, would we have capacity for this? Capacity reservations, per the city's policy, happen at the time of platting or building permits.
So potentially, what could happen is this could go in, a couple other subdivisions out there go in, and then the city not have capacity because of what's developed out here to develop the rest of between?
Without some upgrades, that is a potential.
And then, if that's the case, would then the developer have to pay for those upgrades to be able to tie in?
So ultimately, we do those evaluations with our master plans and see what upgrades are needed. And they are programmed in as city projects, depending on the size. If there are smaller local things or a larger development that can absorb those kind of costs, the developers can certainly fund those. But if they're smaller developments and larger sewer infrastructure that has to happen, that typically is something that is undertaken by the city, utilizing either city sewer funds, or we do have impact fees on the sewer side now that ultimately would be able to be used for that. We're currently focused on the north side of town with those sewer impact fees, but longer term, they will be used throughout the city.
Then, future-wise, how much further south past Lewis could potentially be developed?
So the sewer master plan plans for the entire impact area, and if I remember correctly, Rodney, that goes down to Lake Shore? Or did we pull it back to,
I think it's a Deer Flat, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not
I think it is Lake Shore.
I think it's Lake Shore.
All the way down there?
North side of Lake Shore, what I thought, but.
We've done a couple.
Yep, let me check the map here just to,
The map we were looking on the previous application was Lake Shore for area of impact.
so yes, the sewer impact, or the sewer master plan has identified how we will serve down to Lake Shore. There are obviously improvements that will have to happen to do that, but that is what the planning area for the sewer system is today.
Change your thinking, Brett?
I don't know, I mean, we're trying to do smart development, and, I mean, everything's potentially been thought of.
But if they have to base it on as they come in, we can't say, well, you can't have this one because we don't know what might come in in
Yeah.
5, 10 years.
And I get that. I mean, that's the hard thing. It is, it's.
But Chair, just another perspective of what Commissioner Miller was saying, the fees that we're paying now for the upgrade to the sewer system, I mean, they're quite a bit more, couple of years ago, it was, is that enough to support these big developments that far out of town? Or are we potentially, as citizens, looking at another big increase? And I know I'm asking you to look at a crystal ball here, but
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kirkman, are you talking about the wastewater treatment plant upgrades? Or, okay, so the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, they do not take us, there will be other upgrades that have to happen before the city is completely built out. The plant upgrades that we have been undertaking and are underway add a significant amount of capacity to the city and the ability to serve that. Will there be other upgrades in the future? Yes.
Yeah.
But these will take us long after I'm gone.
Okay, good.
He's pretty old.
Could be a couple of years from now.
I needed a definite time period, so I appreciate that, Daniel. That's all I had. Sorry, I didn't know if you were waiting for more.
No, just.
Well, I like this. I like that it's.
That was all. You said that was all.
Well, he was waiting for, I think you were waiting for a motion.
Exactly.
Okay, well, no one's going to make a motion, so I like this. I think it's very well thought out and planned. I'm a fan of planned unit development, so I move to recommend approval of annexation and zoning of a total of 100.52 acres with approximately 93.52, that's approximate, acres into RS7 and 7 acres BC zoning district, potential development agreement, planned unit development and subdivision, preliminary plat approval for Brookhaven subdivision at 0 and 4101 Alma Lane for Patrick Connor, is representing Wenkenbach LLP and Lionwood Properties LLC with all conditions listed in the staff report, and adopt the proposed findings of the approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3, zoning map amendment from RS 15 to BC zoning district and potential development agreement for parcel 6.66 acres at 2925 East Greenhurst for Miguel Victorio, rezone to allow use as office for tax-related services. You have the applicant?
No applicant?
Mr. Chair, I talked to them last week about it. It is a fairly simple one, but
Do they have to be here?
they don't have to be, but it's been our practice to require them to be here.
They should be, yes, they're applicants.
Do we want to postpone it until we call them? Do we want to open public hearing and postpone it? What do we want to do?
I think you can do what you would like to do here. You could continue this to another date, or you could hear it, and it does go on to city council.
Even if we don't do anything with it?
No,
Oh, it has-
you have to recommend first.
I was going to say that. I don't know, it seems pretty simple to me, but
Yeah, but still, you said.
it would be nice to hear from the applicant, but.
And I think we got to think that we don't want to change precedent. If that's what you have wanted to do, then if we probably should hold to it.
I think
Well, we've had these before where the applicant hasn't shown up, and they've been pretty simple.
No, but they were with,
That's like connecting to sewer or water.
yeah, exactly. The ones that we've gone through in
let's
the
let him
past,
finish.
like
Yeah,
homeowner didn't know he's supposed to be here or something, and we've gone.
but
This is a little bit different than that.
That's fine. Go ahead, Jeff.
the reason I brought that up is But, and then the staff would kind of give us some guidance, like this is a simple one, we can present it, and then I think at that point, we can vote to continue it, or we can vote on it if we think it's simple enough.
Or it's still up to city council, too.
Yeah, and it's a recommendation of city council.
Mr. Chair, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I could present the staff report, and then if you feel like it warrants us having the applicant here, I guess you could continue it and have them come and speak.
Okay.
Okay.
Go for it.
Besides, this is the only one that Rodney has, so.
Be a waste. My family's already down in to see family. I'm staying behind, so gotta present. All right, so this is fairly simple, but a little bit unique. So zoning map amendment from RS15 to BC Community Business Zoning District and a potential development agreement. And original concept is to rezone to allow use as office for tax-related services. So the comp plan map shows this as medium-density residential, and here's a little closer view, but directly across the street is the commercial, and this is kind of in the area that we've been talking about tonight. So this is off of Greenhurst and Southside Boulevard, and there's a little bit of a commercial node there. So you have the listed land uses there on the screen. The services are available. Oh, I'm sorry, let me zoom in for the zoning. Here's the RS15 zoning. You can see to the direct north is BN, but that's just the roadway, and then BC is the other side of Greenhurst Road, north side.
Rodney, on that area that's in city limits, right?
Correct.
Should it
All
be
of this is in.
should it be yellow too?
Excuse me?
Right around the property, should that be yellow? Or what color should that be?
All the gray.
Oh, it's actually green, kind of a green, and that's because of the zone is RS15. We don't see this very often. It's a fairly low-density residential zone, and so we don't see a ton of that, but yeah, all of this area is RS15, and then this area right here is enclave. So
Okay, I was seeing gray as enclave. But
yeah,
I
enclave is
see that
here,
green.
all RS15 here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Utilities available nearby. Here's a little closer view. From my understanding, they don't have any intentions of really changing the use, or excuse me, the building too much. They will do a remodel of the building and be required to have building permits for that. They'll have to put in some parking for their use. But other than that, it kind of still feels a little bit residential there. So conclusions of law, you've heard these already tonight. They're just for zoning, though. Typically, you get these with annexation and zoning, but this is going to be just zoning. So it has to meet the comp plan map. The amendment would provide for proposed use or set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses, and the proposed amendment would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. So just a quick review of code for the BC zone. Here's the setbacks, and you have a little bit unique here in that adjacent to RS, you've got a specific setback next to that. So when you wouldn't have next to commercial, you wouldn't have any setbacks required. When it's next to RS zone property, you do have setbacks required here. So there is a 20-foot required landscape buffer, and again, if you look at this, I think we've got a pretty good amount of space here. We wouldn't require that they install anything new. This would just be what they have there. If it were to redevelop at some point, we might look at that and say, is this truly 20 feet from property line to the front of this building here? But as it is, not going to make major changes there. Number of spaces required, that's going to be analyzed at building permit stage, but it's 1 per 300 square feet of usable net floor area. Engineering made several comments. Those are listed in your packet, pretty standard comments about access and utilities. But then they made these 2 conditions. So applicant owner shall comply with all city codes, policies, and standards at time of development, and then the abandonment of any wells or septic systems at the time of connection to city utilities. Excuse me. Building department identified the need for building permits for remodeling and change of use, as well as the need for a certificate of occupancy. So they're going from one use, residential use, to a commercial use, so that's pretty obvious. They need to get some permits there. Nampa code compliance identified weeds on the property, and they didn't state this, but in the past we've had an agreement here that that we wouldn't finalize the rezone ordinance until those weeds are taken care of.
Now, Rodney, would the rezone have to be finalized for them to get building permit?
It would, yeah. Yep.
So then, Rodney, with that statement, does that need to be conditioned in an approval then, or a recommendation?
For the building permit side of it, or
No,
for the
for
code?
this application, in our, if we make a recommendation.
I think I put it as a condition.
Did you? Okay.
Let
Jumping the
me
gun, sorry.
move through the slides and we'll see if it is in there. And then Nampa Fire District, the applicant will need to apply for a tenant improvement permit and certificate of occupancy, and they'll analyze that for fire safety at that point. Okay, so here's the proposed conditions. Number 7, weeds and debris shall be handled according to city policy prior to a certificate of occupancy being approved for the project. So I guess that's how I handled it rather than the rezone ordinance. That makes it a little easier. And I think I've gone through all those. Here's the proposed findings. I feel like it meets the comprehensive plan because it can be stretched. Remember that we can stretch that designation 1 parcel deep. Would it be provide for a proposed use or set of uses that would be reasonably compatible? That's a little bit questionable, right? That's something you have to consider tonight. But I would just point out that that there are a lot of diverse uses in that area. There's some low-density residential. There's a triplex next door. There's single-family. There's commercial.
There's a church. Apartments.
There's a church. There's apartments. There's a lot going on in that area, and so it's a little bit challenging for me to say absolutely this meets this, but based on what was already there, I said yes, it did meet this condition. The proposed amendment would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. Again, I just pointed out that our comprehensive plan calls for providing commercial services to the residents who live here, and it specifically highlights financial services as an area that we need to highlight and recruit. So I considered this a financial service, and here's a couple of potential motions for your consideration.
So one question I have is, and we've seen things like this come before us before, how do we limit what this could be? Because if we approve it or recommend approval and then city council approves it and then the guy changes his mind and goes in and rips the house down like happened just down the road and then sells it to somebody else and they say, oh, it's commercial, so I can come in here and put, a vape shop or any list of things that would fit in that zoning. Is there a way for us to limit that so it can't happen?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, yes, absolutely. That's a great question. You can put a development agreement on there, and that's why we start our initial notice in the paper is with a potential development agreement. You can limit the land uses down. I'm be hesitant to say you can only do tax services, but because that limits it so much that they, you want to see that it's used for something. But if there's specific land uses that you would like to not see, you can identify those. Or if there's a kind of a category of uses that you want to see, you could say that as well.
So what we can't do is say, instead of BC, we want it to be neighborhood business.
That's correct.
Could we then put a condition on there that it's only the uses allowed under neighborhood business?
As long as they're allowed in the BC zone, yes.
Because that seems to fit for me, but
Like a professional office.
yeah.
Dentist office, accounting office, tax office.
If the applicant had been here, we could have asked him all these questions.
Then one other question for Daniel. So would this be like forced to connect to city water and sewer?
If it is not connected currently, the change of use would not force that, unless they were to trigger the need for septic upgrades. At that point, if sewer is available, then that would trigger not doing an upgrade to the sewer, but a connection. My anticipation would be this use would not add a higher demand to the existing septic, and so the health district would be okay with that.
Any other questions? I have one for the city attorney before we open public testimony. Because the applicant isn't here, if we open it for public testimony, somebody wants to speak for or against on this, should we hold off on taking any testimony until the applicant can be here so he can hear that public testimony?
Commissioner or Chair and Commissioners, not necessarily. He has the opportunity to be here present. He's on the agenda, so he could have spoken. So you can open it up to public comment. Public can comment on that. He's just not here to respond to anybody's comments, and then you guys can continue to go about business. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll open up public testimony.
We have no one signed up to
No one
speak on
signed
this
up.
item.
We're running out of people. Is there anybody here that wants to speak for or against or undecided on this? You're just doing 3 for 3 tonight. Yeah, come on up. Don't forget your name and address.
Andrew Cassio, 9975 Tearsell Drive. I think this is a pretty non-offensive proposal for a change in zoning. It's on a relatively busy-ish street that kind of moves at slightly faster, maybe 30 miles an hour speeds. So it's not particularly great for residential as it's currently zoned. I'm actually, I can't imagine that parking in this area. I frequent businesses there. I can't imagine that parking is really even a big concern. I definitely agree with, the timer isn't started. I definitely agree with Mr. Morgan's suggestion about possibly looking into doing residential, or is it residential business? Is that what it's called? Neighborhood business? Yeah. If that's something that the commission wants to consider, because that would kind of allow a better control of what
could go in there.
Goes in there, that it's not going to be something, really incompatible with use. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm waiting for somebody above to talk.
What's the right way to do that? Just say, are there any uses?
Any opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Are there any neighborhood business uses that aren't allowed in a BC?
I don't know that. Let me take a minute and look.
But if we just limited it to professional office-type businesses, that would
I
limit
guess
it.
just something that's like
What does that
not objective, not subjective,
Yes.
sorry. You know, because if we
The
just say,
interpretation, sorry.
like our.
Yeah, because you could have like a 5-story office building.
Well, I think there's, other restrictions that would prevent, right, but I guess.
It is.
That would just give an objective list of what's allowed there if we just say anything. I mean, it's kind of cheating. We're basically creating a neighborhood business zone without
Creating.
creating a business zone, which is what it should have been, I
Yeah.
think, in the first place.
Well, but we're looking at compatibility too, and it's like Commissioner Garner said, I mean, a vape shop go in that area, it's not necessarily.
Well, to be fair, there's one right across the
I
street.
understand, but the concept, you know, an Adam and Eve or something that goes in there, you know, that's on Garrity right now, maybe they want to expand.
That'd be great.
Oh, geez.
My backyard. Literally.
You know, this is a public hearing.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, if you look on the screen, I'm just going down through our land use table here, and you've got, the first thing I notice is that there's like a bed and breakfast. It's required to have a conditional use permit in the BN zone, but the BC zone, it's required to have or it's just allowed, it's just permitted. So then I'll keep going. This one's just permitted in both. This one is conditional on both of them. Let's see. But it has a footnote 4. So let's take a look at that. This one is a conditional use permit where it's just permitted in BC. Again, conditional uses. This one actually adds uses that aren't
what I was
allowed
worried
in
about.
BC. So this would not be possible to approve these land uses where it's not permitted in a BC zone.
And see, that's what I'm concerned with,
Me
is I don't
too,
want to go from an office to a 4-plex townhome.
So we could tell them it would, it still has to be approved in BC. I mean, it's still zoned BC, so they couldn't do it, even if we said.
Correct. You'd have to just say that any land uses that are allowed in the BN zone as well as the BC zone would be permitted
I mean, just the
or
fact that
conditioned.
just the fact that we're zoning at BC implies that, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. I don't want any kind of misunderstanding from the public's perspective about what, we can't permit something that is not already permitted in the BC zone. So just as long as we're clear about that,
Because, we're limiting, we're not expanding.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the same. Most of these are the same. So 3 and 4, multifamily in a BN zoning district, multifamily residential development in a BN zoning district shall comply with the density limitations in the RML zone. So it just gives the densities that are required for BN, and then this limits it to where it can go and how high it can go in BC, so I don't see a conflict there. Okay, so here's the BN zone again. Permitted and, again, permitted.
But like freight transfer point, that's permitted in BC, but obviously we don't want that here.
Right. Or, again, this one wouldn't, if you went to BN, it wouldn't allow
Right.
telephone, telegraph. Yeah, it looks pretty much the same, except for a couple of those cases we already saw.
Can't allow a carnival there anymore.
Could we make an exception?
Same.
1 week a year.
We're the carnival,
What about the zoo?
circus.
So this would not be allowed if it was in the BN
Which I
land
think that's
uses.
exactly what we're trying to do, is
Yeah.
is limit those kind of uses.
Limit.
So I think actually zoning it BC and limiting it to that kind of is what I would recommend we do.
Sounds like you're starting down the path of emotion.
Anybody have any other comments? You mind bringing the motion back up,
Yeah.
Robbie?
Give me a second.
So you think that limits it enough?
I do. If it's good enough for the neighborhood business zone, I think it would be appropriate there. Got a gas station right across the street,
And a vape shop.
and a vape shop, all kinds of businesses that have
There
been
is a
there.
tobacco connection or something there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a workout facility and
And a Domino's Pizza.
And just for clarity's sake, I can have this for city council, I'll list out those different land uses that you're recommending.
And they can decide if they don't
Wanna limit
want
it.
that or not, I guess. So I move that we recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from RS15 to BC zoning district for 2925 East Greenhurst Road for Miguel Victorio, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and an additional condition that the land use be limited to what is approved in the neighborhood business zoning, and to adopt the proposed findings of fact as stated.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed.
As a business, I think he should be here.
Motion carries. Number 4, conditional use permit for primary business operation to include the continued unenclosed outdoor display and storage of retail merchandise both seasonally and year-round in a BC zoning district at 3106 and 3200 12th Avenue Road, 5.52 acres and 2 parcels, for Elizabeth Allen of Ball Ventures Alquist, representing Schrant Family Limited Partnership, seasonal and year-round display and storage of retail merchandise in undisclosed outdoor areas on retail store property. Must be you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I was involved in the design of this project, so I probably better recuse myself.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll go take a walk.
Go take a walk.
I'm up, right?
Yep.
Okay. Elizabeth Allen, 1144 South Silverstone Way, Meridian, Idaho 83642. I'm the development planner at Alquist. Previously, Ball Ventures Alquist. We have since changed the name of the company. And we're before you today to request approval of a conditional use permit to allow unenclosed outdoor display and storage of retail merchandise for D&B Supply located on 12th Avenue. Figure out. Okay, there we go. I'm going to go to the picture first. Do I have to point it somewhere or?
No.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so this image was taken a few weeks ago. So D&B Supply is currently undergoing a renovation. It's been at this location since the mid-1990s, so it's been in Nampa for quite a while. If you recall that the D&B previously had merchandise on the parking towards the front along 12th and along the other street. And it was brought to our attention that unenclosed merchandise could not be displayed outside of an unenclosed area. So that's why we're requesting approval of the CUP to allow the merchandise to be displayed and stored outside. But we've moved it outside of those parking stalls to meet the Nampa parking requirements. And then on the front of the building, we still have merchandise displayed. And then on the sides, in the next image, we'll show that. So this is an image taken from the rear of the building, so you can see the merchandise behind the building, and then on the side where there used to be the bulk bins have been taken out because of the Caldwell location has more products So they removed that, and then that created additional parking in that area as well. And then going back to the outdoor operations, to just give you an overview of that. So the display of merchandise will be year-round along the west, south, and east side of the building, and then along the northwest, and east perimeter of the site, as I showed in the images. And then in the summer, they have in the front 15 parking stalls, there's a display of plants and other garden products that you have out in the front. So that impacts the parking that still, regardless in the summer and throughout the rest of the year, will meet the parking requirements. So parking July 16th through to February 14th, there's 186 regular stalls, and then the 9 ADA stalls. And then parking February 15th through July 15th has 171 regular stalls. And then it still has 9 ADA stalls. And that's about it. Thank you for your time, and I'll stand for questions.
The employees park.
I'll go back. So the employees are parking up along 12th Avenue, where the DMB sign is located.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll hear from staff. Call you back up if we have any questions. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and Commissioners. One second while I pull up this presentation. Damian Snodgrass, Associate Planner. The request before you this evening is for a conditional use permit to be approved for primary business operation to include the continued unenclosed outdoor display and storage of retail merchandise, both seasonally and year-round, in a BC zone. According to the Schedule of Uses in Nampa City Code, primary business operations shall be entirely enclosed in a building unless otherwise specified by a conditional use permit. Here are the applicable regulations for a conditional use permit. There are 5 criteria that must be met, found to be met by the Commission to approve this project at this location. That the proposed use is supported by the Nampa Comprehensive Plan, that the proposed use does not adversely impact the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity, that the proposed use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services, that the proposed use will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community, and that the proposed use will not be detrimental to any person's property or general welfare of the community. So some of the property details, the comprehensive plan designation for this property is commercial. It's currently BC commercial business. To the north is commercial business. To the south, commercial business. To the east, we have single-family residential, and to the west, we have county residential. And public utilities and services are already accessed to the property. For staff analysis, shown are the parking regulations that are necessary per code. Currently, the business must provide 161 parking spaces. The applicant stated that they will be providing 186 during the winter season and 171 during the summer season, so they are already overparked per the calculations. And this is compatible with the intended use. So all agencies responded no comment to this CUP.
And from Kuna School District?
They just said their bus doesn't stop there.
So here are the proposed findings for approval. Staff analysis does conclude that it meets the commercial goals as outlined by the comprehensive plan. Staff analysis does conclude that the design will not adversely impact the intended character. Staff analysis does conclude that it will be adequately served by utilities and the proposed use will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. And staff finds that the proposed use does not involve any activities that would be detrimental to the community. All of this saying because the business has been standing, doing what it's been doing since the mid-90s. All right, conditions for approval are just standard building code and policies. Developer shall comply to all city codes, policy standards in place at the time of the property development, including with the Nampa Access Management Policy. Here are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Damien?
Yeah, I got one question. So is this something that came up? I mean, how come, have they had a conditional use permit to put this material on display up till now? And if not, how come all of a sudden we just noticed it? Because they
Commissioner-
changed the color of the building?
Commissioner Kirkman, this comes from a community-wide code enforcement effort to get some of the bulk retailers to limit the amount of display they're using in their parking lots.
I remember we had a Home Depot or a Lowe's, or it was one of those that was, that's what I was thinking, okay.
Yeah. So to be fair, we kind of just drove around the city and we found all of the larger retailers that were doing the same things, and they all got the same letter. Some of them responded quicker than others.
All right. Haven't seen Walmart here yet, so we'll see.
Don't hold your breath.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that.
Any other questions? Well, I guess we'll open up for public hearing. Do we have anybody that wants to speak for or against or undecided?
We have no one signed up for this item. No.
Wait a minute.
Come on, 4 for 4. I can't quit on this now. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Andrew Cassio. I live at 9975 Tearsell Lane. I didn't want to speak for this one, but I'm kind of surprised that you need government permission to display merchandise outside of your business. I mean, how are you supposed to survive as a business without being able to do that? So, I mean, please consider repealing this rule that requires a conditional use permit. But yeah, that's all. I don't want to keep you guys here too late.
Thank you. Anybody else? You're the only one left, you know. Well, do you want to respond to that, or before I close public hearing?
Shouldn't have to.
You don't have to.
What do you
I'm
respond
not
to?
necessarily
Yeah.
responding, but I will say, so we're working on those renovations, and so if you haven't been to D&B recently, I just would recommend to go check it out. They're not done all the way, but it's just a great improvement. And the parking lot without all the merchandise looks nice.
Drove by today, looks like
I
it
was
surprised
there
me.
today, and they're selling guns in there now.
Well, the whole building is painted. That's what caught my eye, is it looked like a new building.
Yeah,
So,
it just, and when it's done, it's just going to be, it's going to look brand new, so,
Great.
Go there a lot. I just haven't been there since they started their renovation, so.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess we'll take a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Jeff?
Whoever was loudest.
Jeff. So close the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
You were for, so, okay. I should have waited a little longer, so. Okay, what do you want to do?
Well, I don't want a refund of what I spent today, so I'll approve it.
Motion just went away. Do you have it pulled up there in your book?
Everybody else agree?
Yep.
Yeah, we're for.
Yep.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit for the primary business operating to include the continued unenclosed outdoor display and storage of retail merchandise, both seasonal and year-round, in a BC zoning district at 3106 and 3200 12th Avenue for Ball Ventures Alquist, with recommended conditions of findings and fact for approval as stated in staff report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
It's a little
Motion carries. So I got to read this to you before you leave. This CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date the written decision and reason statement is provided to the applicant. unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff that there have been no appeals. Okay, thank you. Last one, annexation and zoning to IL zoning district and potential development agreement for .89 acre parcel at 97 North Kings Road for Brandon and Crystal Hatter, operation of a restaurant supply sales and delivery business, including office, inventory storage, parking for delivery trucks. The applicant? Running out of people, so it's
Thanks for staying late enough for this, last but not least. Brandon Hattar, 707 Meadowview Drive, Nampa, 83651. So I've owned this property a couple years. My wife and I own Iron Creek Restaurant Supply. We sell restaurant equipment. We deliver it all over the valley, and we like to rezone this and use it for our business. It currently has an older home on it and 3 warehouse-type structures, pole barns. It'll work perfect for our business. We store new inventory in those buildings, and then we could use that house as an office building. It's pretty light traffic. We have 1 employee besides my wife and I, and 1 delivery truck. We don't have a showroom or anything, so nobody comes to our business. We just fulfill orders, ship it out. That's about it.
okay. Thank you. We'll hear from staff.
Looking at the aerial photograph of your location, and there's a lot of trucks and vehicles parked around it. With all those vehicles, are they from your business or from the prior business?
Well, it's an older photo, but I have stored a lot of my own stuff there. I don't live there. We live elsewhere in Nampa, and so it's kind of been my personal storage yard. But that will all go away.
That there, Rodney? Do you need a special permit for that, storing all this stuff in personal yard?
It's like my personal vehicles, RV, that kind of
Just
stuff.
teasing.
Okay.
I wouldn't say too much.
But I will add that we're surrounded on 3 sides by light industrial. There's like a big, on the other side of Port Street, there's a big steel building manufacturer. And then, I'm sorry, on the other side of Kings Road. And then on the other side, on the north side of Port, there's like a old chicken barn that they converted into a bunch of units. There's like mechanics.
It would look better
and,
if it was a chicken barn again.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different
really
businesses in there. And then the property to the west, it's like a car storage yard or something. I know the guy owns a car dealership. I think he just stores stuff there, but it's also light industrial. There, and then on the south side is a home. But I'm pretty comfortable. I know that guy, and he has no problem with it. And we have a pole barn that pretty much blocks his entire view of our yard there. So.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Christy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The action requested from you this evening is a recommendation of approval to City Council for the annexation and zoning to IL at 97 North Kings Road. They have stated that this would be ideal for their purposes. We do not wish to have a dwelling on the property, and the property that was formerly a house no longer has a kitchen or a shower tub, and it would make a great office building. Our business generates very little traffic because we don't have any customers visiting our facility. Our customers place orders via email or phone, and we deliver the products directly to them. So the property, as stated, is completely surrounded by IL zoning, except for the property to the south, which is a residence in Canyon County. Other uses in the area are storage units, steel manufacturing, a powder coating business, a woodworking business, U-Haul rentals, the National Guard Armory, the airport, a pallet company, auto repair services, and single-family residential. There are city utilities serving this area and available to the property should they be needed if it isn't already hooked up, which I don't believe that it is. They will be required to dedicate a certain portion of right-of-way on Port, so 15 feet from the section line on Port, 15 feet from the section line on Kings, and then there will be a 25-foot chamfer at the intersection that will need to be dedicated. A traffic impact study will likely not be required for this project due to the size of the business being operated there. The building department stated that they will need to bring the building up to city code to get certificate of occupancy, so they will need to talk with the building department about what that looks like. Planning and zoning will also, with the change of use and the certificate of occupancy, require a landscape buffer along Port and Kings. Any new buildings or changes to the current buildings will require design review. And engineering has their standard lists, again, of right-of-way dedication and potential frontage improvements. So findings for annexation, there are 3. The applicant has given permission to, has consented to the annexation. The property is contiguous to the city limits on the north, east, and west sides. The property can reasonably be assumed to be available for orderly development of the city because it has access to city services and utilities, and it will dedicate right-of-way and make frontage improvements upon certificate of occupancy. For zoning, again, 3 criteria: must be in harmony with the zoning selected must be in harmony with the comprehensive plan. This area is designated as industrial, and IL fits that. It does provide for a proposed set of uses that would be compatible with adjoining uses. It is IL all the way around on 3 sides, and industrial uses are already in the area. It is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it has access to city services and utilities. It will provide frontage improvements, and we are always encouraging small businesses to locate in Nampa. These are the recommended conditions of approval. These are the potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Questions for staff? None? Well, we'll open it up for public hearing.
We have no one signed up.
I almost got it down. I know you live on Tercel, but I haven't got the number down yet.
Andrew Cassio at 9975 Tearsell Lane, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. By a chamfer, that's like the cement that's like on the edge of a street, on like a city street?
It's just a right-of-way, so he has to set aside part of his property for the future street, and it's kind of cutting that corner.
Okay.
So a chamfer is like a cutting of the corner where that intersection is.
To make it like, to make a right turn easier?
Just to have more space if they need to develop the roadway in the future.
Okay.
Daniel, did I say that?
The chamfer is typically for, as the radius comes around, to have room for the pedestrian ramps and that type of improvements there.
Just so he's not right up into the intersection.
Okay, yeah. This looks good.
Thank you. Thank you for being a good sport tonight. You want to address any of his concerns, or are you okay?
I would like to say on that point, that corner could use some work. It's very narrow. And everybody, like somebody took out a school bus took out the stop sign recently. So that's all I'll say.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear about that, though, later on, maybe after the...
What school bus was it?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Anybody opposed? Okay. Somebody,
Anybody have any comments?
I don't think so. I think it's good. Nice to have somebody in there.
I'm going to try to have as many comments as our friend Andrew, do as many motions. I move that we approve the annexation and zoning to IL zoning district at 97 North Kings Road for Brandon and Crystal Hatter, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.